Good morning and welcome to San Nazaro Beach here in Genoa, Italy for day 3, the third and final day here at the World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals. My name's Camilla Hadlin-Horrocks. I'm joined here by Niamh Hayes. We've been your commentators here at this amazing event. We've thoroughly enjoyed it, and Niamh, it's been a brilliant few days so far. Tell me about some of your highlights and what perhaps we've got to look forward to today.
So yesterday we saw some amazing racing. I think the thing that stood out to me was the skills from the athletes. You know, it's the little things, the entries, the exits, the turns, that made all the difference yesterday because it was quite flat. So we really saw people start to shine yesterday. So I'm looking forward to more of that. I'm also looking forward to, there's a bit more movement, a bit more action going out on the water. So I think that'll make things pretty exciting for the spectators.
Few of those dumpy waves that you were talking about yesterday we were looking forward to. So your dream has come true, a little bit more of that. We've got 5 more categories here today. We saw 5 yesterday in action. 5 new nations crowned as beach sprint finals champions. Great Britain, China, Lithuania and the United States of America all coming home with gold medals here. And today we've got both of the junior men's and women's doubles. We've also got the junior mixed doubles to look forward to, as well as our two of our 3 Olympic categories as well, the coastal men's and women's solos. Now, if I've just said all of that to you and it makes no sense whatsoever, you're in luck. If you didn't watch any of yesterday's racing, we're going to tell you a little bit more about how beach sprints work.
Let's find out how to beach sprint. Here's the start. The first thing that happens is the athlete goes sprinting down the beach on the horn or the dropping of the flag from the start umpire. They race down to their boat. This might be the athlete in their single or the coxswain in the quad or the stroke in the double. It's a 250-meter sprint, slaloming on the right-hand side of the first of 3 buoys and then on the left-hand side of the second buoy. Then they make their way up to the hairpin bend at the third buoy, 250 meters down the course. Navigation is crucial here. They spin around that third buoy, having almost a handbrake turn, really technically challenging to make sure they maintain their boat speed as best as possible. And then here's the difficult bit, lining themselves up for the fastest straight line back to the beach. Spatial awareness absolutely critical. Navigating the currents is what sets apart the winning athletes from those who can't quite make it. As they come to the beach, they'll be looking over their shoulders, checking for that dismount point that they want to time perfectly. They'll run up the beach, around their flag, and hit the buzzer on the sand to stop the clock.
Well, now you know a little bit more about beach sprint rowing. I'm here with one of the pioneering members of that sport and its inception, the chair of the World Rowing Coastal Commission, Gwyn Batting. Gwyn, great to be back with you again here on the third and final day of competition. I know that Thursday we were due to have a few boats off, but weather sort of hampers us there. Now, this sport we talked about yesterday, the growth that it's gone through. Tell us a little bit more about how many countries we've got here, the sort of growth of competitors that we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, so we've got our largest ever entry, which has been a real challenge for us as an organising committee because it's really, really exploding out there. We've got 51 nations and 370 athletes who are here, all vying on the water for those medals.
It's a huge, huge amount of athletes and completely worlds away from where we were back in 2019 in Shenzhen for that first event. Now, there might be some people out there thinking about starting a beach rowing program or some nations that are interested in getting into it. Can you tell me a little bit more about what makes a successful beach rower and beach rowing program?
Yeah, so as far as the athlete's concerned, the fundamental and the majority of the time on the water is rowing. So you need to be a good rower, you need to be confident in that. The boats aren't as skinny as the fine boats that you have on flat water. So, but you need that power, you need that strength, you need that technique. But beyond that, what we're looking for is people with a huge amount of agility, the ability to cope with a very changing dynamic situation. And so when I say agility, I mean agility physically as well as mentally. It's pretty brutal, and we've had some really brutal condition in the first day of racing here where the field was cut really radically, and if you were lucky to catch a real steaming runner all the way back in, you had a great return run, and then some people hit some really tough waves on the way out. So, agility mentally, agility physically.
And even yesterday, when the conditions were reasonably calm, we did see the difference in that boatmanship between those that had prepared for that and those who hadn't. Just talking about yesterday versus today, taking a quick look behind us, it does look like there is a little bit more surf here kind of rolling up on the beach. Anything particularly different that you think is facing today's competitors versus yesterday's?
Yeah, so we had a northerly, very strong northerly wind, which affected the guys on the way out and their turn, and you probably saw that in the video. But the swell was northerly, which meant that we virtually had no waves here yesterday. We were picking up some waves from the larger commercial shipping that was coming in occasionally. Today, the swell is about the same height, but instead of coming from the north, it's going to start swinging from the southwest. Combine that with a late afternoon wind coming in from the southwest, it's going to start picking up through the day.
That's quite exciting, and I hope that our athletes here are quite excited about that prospect as well, because they'll get to show off all of those skills that they've learned in terms of, sort of entering and exiting the boats. The boat handlers will be really challenged today as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the dismount is one of the hardest things to do on this beach, and so making sure that they have especially when the race is tight and the pressure is under the runner, making sure that they time that dismount perfectly.
Well, Gwyn, I can hear that we're already starting to get some action underway, and racing kicks off in just 3 minutes' time. So, Gwyn, I'm going to let you go. There it is, right on cue. Well, as you've just seen that video about the course, about what we've got to look forward to, you can see behind you just here, this is the start line that we've got. The great slogan, Glory is coming, here for Genoa 2024. So the athletes will line up here on this start line. This will also act as the finish line as well. They sprint down the beach. They don't have to go around that flag on this exit leg. Their boats will be held here in the water, and you can see just behind me, they're preparing the boats ready to go out there on the water. They'll jump into their boats, and then out there is the slalom course. They'll slalom around the first two buoys. The third buoy right at the end is our turning point buoy, which they will handbrake turn around. They've got a straight line back in towards the beach, but the only change when they exit and start this sprint up the sand is they must go around this flag here if they want to avoid a penalty. So they'll have to go diagonally here around this flag, and then glory awaits them here at the finish line. That buzzer right there nestled in the pebbles is what will get them through their round and onto the next stage of competition. It's all about knockouts here today. We'll be kicking off racing in just under 2 minutes' time. So we're going to pass you back up to Neve and myself in the commentary box to take you through the first round of action in the Coastal Junior Double Sculls.
Thank you so much, Camilla. Great to hear from the beach there, all the action that awaits us. But at the first race up this morning, we're into our first knockout. It is the Coastal Junior Mixed Double Sculls, and we can see the start list here. So first up, we are going to have Bahamas versus Australia. Then it is going to go Peru, Great Britain, Spain, Ireland, Portugal, Hungary, France, New Zealand, Italy, Ukraine, Cyprus, Turkey, and Austria versus Germany. So this is a knockout round. So this is the first time that these athletes will go head to head here now. They've done their time trial on Friday. That was a processional time trial where they raced one crew at a time to get the best time, and of course those times were so important because it booked them a spot into the last 16. We're seeing here on our screen we have Astrid Thomas from Australia. We saw her yesterday in the junior single. She was up on the podium with a bronze medal, and here we have Bahamas, we have Tanaj Manos. So they're at the start line here. They're waiting for the starters' orders for that hooter to go and that flag to drop. Awaiting them on the water is their boat. It is the rower that is with them. They're ready to go on the water. We can see, and if you were watching yesterday, you'll see even how different it is already here at the beach with those breakers. It's much harder to control those boats today with the breakers that we are seeing. But here they are, ready to go. And we are off. First race of the morning. There's a nice sprint. The tide is out here, so they have a big sprint down the beach, but nice entry there by Australia. They're off. They're after pulling 2 strokes, and now the Bahamas are off. Bit of a swell now to get through, but both crews now nice and clean through those swells as they make their way out to that marker. Can see there Samuel Forbes of Australia just looking over the shoulder, making sure he's the correct side of that first marker buoy. So as they head head out now down the course. It is Australia from Bahamas. Now, you did your own little bit of running there, Camilla, up to me here.
It's tough, Neve. You did it yesterday, and today, I mean, it's like running through treacle going up that beach. So how you do it after a pretty intense sprint around that slalom and back, and with these conditions picking up as well, it's going to be even more tiring to combat some of the wind that we heard Gwyn talking about, some more of that swell. It just makes the athletes tense up that little bit more to try and handle it. So those that can stay relaxed, those that can keep breathing and keep themselves calm, I think will do very well and succeed here today. But brilliant here from Australia, like you've mentioned. Quite wide off that end turning, Boyd, but we are still here only in the opening round of 16.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, if you were watching yesterday, we talked about this, how in these knockouts, the first one, you're going to have the fastest from the time trial versus the slowest. So Australia were the fastest out of all the junior mixed doubles. So it's no surprise that they have such a lead. Bahamas then finishing in 16th place. They were about 26 seconds behind them in that time trial. Nice bit of navigation going on by Australia. They're keeping their bow in towards the right-hand side as I'm looking out to them on the beach. They're staying nice and close. Of course, that's really important because you want to land on the beach in an optimal position right down from the flag, because that bow person is going to have to jump out of the boat and run around that flag. So that's key, really, isn't it, that navigation on the way home?
It is, and I've noticed we've got Astrid Thomas in the stroke seat. You probably already mentioned we saw yesterday in the women's solo event. So having someone like that in the boat that's dealt with what we've heard of different conditions today, but still that same piece of water, the currents and the flows are going to be reasonably similar. To understand what they need to do on their station to navigate back will be key for them. So brilliant from Australia. Oh, a little bit of a wave caught here from Bahamas. You can see that this is definitely a much choppier sea here today. And I think perhaps actually it's Tanjad Manas or Alicia Adderley. One of them's come off their seat. I think perhaps Alicia Adderley there in the bow seat. So it's unfortunate that they've managed to fix it, though. Good recovery. Australia have now crossed the line to succeed here in this opening knockout stage of the round of 16. Bahamas have had to try and navigate a tricky recovery there.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a wash came in sideways on them. I don't think they were expecting it. It just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. But look at this now. They're sprinting into the beach, catching that wave. So this is where we're going to see the experience from the coastal rowers, because it's not about just rowing into the beach with two blades. You have to be so careful, and we'll see it throughout the day. The more experienced coastal rowers with that little bit of a swell, you'll see how they'll change up their technique, change how much they slide on the sea, change which side they're pulling on harder, and that's going to, I think, set aside the more experienced coastal rowers here today. But already on to the second knockout. We talked about this yesterday, how quick they go. We barely have time to catch our breath, and we're on to our second knockout already. So this time we have Great Britain and Peru.
Now, I think the thing is, Neve, with this, we've seen Australia still pushing hard despite having quite a comfortable lead. And I think everyone very cognizant that earlier in the week, the last 16 was taken off times where there was supposed to be a second time trial, a second opportunity to get into this knockout stage of competition. But because of the changing forecast, we had to cancel that. So everyone's still going for a time here, just in case they have to draw a line somewhere and award the next round based on those times. But here we go, underway here, like you said, Great Britain and Peru.
Yes, indeed. Now Great Britain are going to be going for it in this category. They won this category last year at the World Championships. Two new rowers this year. We have Leah Saunders there in the stroke seat, Sol Chamberlain Hyde there joining her in the bow seat. But, you know, to have won that category as a nation last year, I'm sure they'll be going for it again this year. Nice start there by both of them. Great Britain already at that first marker. We see Peru just getting caught up on that bit of a swell. The swell today, very much like it's pretty much starting there at that first marker all the way in, which is not what we saw yesterday at all.
No, this is very changeable compared to yesterday. A lot more unexpected waves, swell, and it's going to be very tricky to ensure that you're, as I say, relaxed, letting the boat just be carried for you. It's a good balance, though, isn't it, Niamh? I don't know. Again, I've not been out there on a coastal boat. I'm going to attempt tomorrow, just between you and I. But I think that there's a fine balance, isn't there, between being relaxed, but sometimes being too relaxed means that you can get thrown around a little bit. Blades can get thrown, out of your hands. The oars can get taken from you. So finding that sort of pitch point between being so relaxed and also holding on and controlling the boat, very, very difficult.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to tune into what's happening in your body, into your physiology, basically, and you don't want to be braced and gripping too tight, because that's when things can go wrong, and you also don't want to be completely loose. You have to find that nice balance where you have a bit of, I suppose, fight or flight energy coming in, but staying nice and regulated at the same time, and that's the thing that's key, because it'll keep you on the ball mentally as well, which is what you need, because it's so dynamic and so changeable out there. You really need to be at your best all the time, every second of the race. So Great Britain now already coming back to that first marker. They're hugging that course on the way back, super navigating. In fact, they've gone to the right hand side of that last marker. That doesn't make a difference on the way back. You don't get a penalty, of course. It's the opposite on the way in, but look at this now. Bow is up in the air. Let's see if they can use these waves to their advantage. Here they are. Stern is up. They are flying into the beach.
Wow, that was a great wave that was caught there by Great Britain. You can see the surge of speed as they come in towards the beach. They timed that absolutely perfectly, read the waves well to get carried in. If you get caught in a trough, it can be really sticky. So wonderful stuff there. It will be Salt Chamberlain Hyde that takes that run into the beach. Peru now on their way, disembarking from that boat. And here goes Cesar Kroll, who will hit that buzzer, but unfortunately knockout is exactly what it says on the tin. They won't be facing any further rounds of competition in this mixed double, but brilliant to see Peru, a nation that we see quite often in the long distance championships, Niamh, actually. It's great to see them sort of continuing to thrive in beach sprints.
Absolutely, and again, nations are spending so much more time and resources in this sport now. It's going to be in the Olympics just 4 years time, and so it's now is the time that nations need to be having a look at athletes, having a look at where they train, how they train. But here we have next up Spain versus Ireland. So we have Grace Masterson there on the right hand side. She'll be stroking the Irish boat, joining Jack Hare there in a second. And then in the Spanish boat we're seeing Carmen Yaroba Perez, Nicholas Erbora Mira. So this is going to be a great race. Nice sprint here by both. Look like Spain going to get to the water a little bit quicker. Grace right behind there for Ireland.
Yeah, good entry there from both crews. And just as much as coming into the beach is important when the waves are up and the swell is up, the sort of push point and the exit leg, also important to time that push off well, Niamh.
Absolutely, yeah, that push off is essential. This sport is so short. Your race is over in just over 2 minutes, so all those little things make such a difference. Everywhere that you can make an advantage is key here. Quite even at the moment, advantage probably to Spain as they head out towards that second marker, but lots of things can happen in this time. Spain, of course, finishing third in the time trial on Friday. Ireland were 14th. There was about 18 seconds between them, but we have Grace Masterson there in the Irish boat, such an experienced beach sprint rower. She's raced in the junior women's double over the years, a lot of experience, and we saw Jack yesterday in the junior men's solo as well. Spain, though, they're spending so much time, effort, resources in developing their team. They have LA in their sights, and we're seeing that across the board in all categories.
Yeah, I think that is one of the motivations for countries to set up programs. But look at this here, Niamh. Spain going really off course. They're rowing right in towards Ireland's water. They're really going to have to course correct here. Huge tugs on the bow side blades, on that starboard side blade, to get them back round and in towards their course. They've managed it well. If that had been a closer race, though, I think they'd have been in trouble. No interference allowed with the other crew. Going into their water, not so much of a problem, so long as they don't interfere with the crew in the other lane. So Spain back on track, back on course, a few boat lengths now between themselves and Ireland, and Spain third overall in the preliminaries in those time trials that took place on Friday. Ireland down in 14th. So in terms of the result going the way that it was maybe expected to based on the time trial, running to form at the moment, but you know, when the conditions get tricky, and like we heard Gwyn say in the interview earlier, you know, you catch that wrong wave, you catch the right wave, in fact. Both of those things can elicit a different result every time that you run this race. So Spain, they have done very well there. They are flying in towards the beach, and there goes Nicolas Iborra-Mira, who will take them home for a place in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, great race, great finish there by Spain, really making use of that swell all the way from that last marker home. Here we have Jack Hare there making his sprint up the beach, and great effort there from Ireland. Jack's first year competing at international level. But yeah, Spain, I suppose they were on paper the stronger team based on the time trials. So well done to them. Another spot booked in the quarterfinals. So we're on to knockout 4 already. This time it is going to be Hungary versus Portugal. Now, we saw a lot of Portuguese rowers yesterday, great navigating. It was quite flat on the water, but there were these gusts that were pushing, particularly at that turning buoy, and we saw, you know, Portugal were doing really well with their navigation. So let's see if they can replicate that. And I do believe it actually was Tomas Neves there that we did see yesterday in the solo boat.
It was, and Neves, he produced a great performance. He got down to the last 4, perhaps. I think he made those semi-finals. So Neves, experienced rower here for Portugal, joined by Lara Faustino here, but going up against Palka Balint and Sokas Kira Virag of Hungary. And a little trip there from Kira Virag of Hungary. And Portugal, that means that they've seen an opportunity here. They're riding those waves. You can see this is so much more intense than yesterday's start for these athletes, having to undulate up and down with those opening strokes. And round the slalom buoys we go. Oh, another small problem here for the Hungarians. That's the second small issue that we've seen from the stroke seat there. Sokas Kira Virag. Lots of different moves going on by the boat handlers here.
Yeah, the boat handlers play such an important role, and right now what they're doing is they're helping those crews navigate. Oh, Portugal were very lucky there to be the correct side of that second marker buoy. You do not want to miss either of the first 2 marker buoys, because you will get a 30-second penalty if you go the wrong side. And of course, the big turning buoy where you have to go 180 degrees, that is a 2-minute penalty if you miss it. So you have to go right side. Portugal looking like they're going, just about getting around it. I don't know, was that perfection or was it just
cutting it a bit fine? Yeah, I think that was cutting it a bit fine, if I'm honest, Niamh. But you know, we could see more of that. And look, we even said yesterday that the perfect course here on this slalom is trying to go in the straightest line possible without weaving too much. So Portugal have corrected, but have they overcorrected here, Niamh?
Yeah, they were going way wide. I wonder if there's something similar to what we saw yesterday, whereby, particularly in the right-hand lane, when they go around that turning buoy, they're being pushed over on to the other lane, but they've overcorrected. They've obviously had a look at the first few races there and seen what was happening. And obviously, Tomas has a bit of experience from yesterday. So, yeah, I think they're okay. They have their bow certainly pointed over towards us here at the right-hand side of the beach, but I think they need to do that. That shows the experience that they have in the coastal waters. You know, they're going to hit that marker. Don't think it's going to upset them too much. They're right up on the waves here now. Bow is up, so they'll be looking to try and catch this, and here we go. So they have to time this to perfection, and they've upped their rate. The boat is moving at a crazy speed here now. So it is Portugal getting to that beach first.
Yeah, you can see the boat speed there that elicited, 15.9 kilometres per hour. That was a really good demonstration of Portugal catching the wave, and around the flag goes Lara Faustino to get them into the quarterfinals. Portugal will be successful ahead of Hungary. Last sprint here for Palka, who head down. Tough sprint there where you're behind, and that will be the last time he'll need to run up that beach though. So big well done there to Hungary, but it will be Portugal progressing through.
Yeah, well done there to Portugal. Great to see the trickier conditions here this morning. You know, I was praying that it might blow up a little bit, and I think it has. And from what Gwen is saying, it's going to only get worse, I think, throughout the day. That might mean just bigger breakers, and we saw that on Friday. It did get very challenging. I'm not sure it's going to be as bad as Friday, but it definitely does bring in an extra element to it. So next up in our knockouts, we have France on the left-hand side of our screens, New Zealand on the right side. There for New Zealand, Naomi Robertson, Jemison McConaughey, and then for France, we have Alban Marson and Lisa Van Kotten.
There we go, very evenly matched off the sprinting start there, and that run down the beach is crucial to getting a good start into the boats as well. And little looks across, I think they're getting the measure of their competition there, New Zealand, Naomi Robertson and Jamison McConaughey. But it's going to get closer and closer. We said this yesterday, Neve, because these knockout stages of the competition are based on the preliminary time trial results. We see the fastest crews matched up with the crews that came lower down the rankings, and we kind of come inwards towards the center of these brackets, which means that with every race that goes by, we're getting crews that are closely matched in speed. And you can see this here between both New Zealand and France. They've hit that second slalom buoy in unison, and they're both heading now for that end turning point buoy.
Yeah, just about 8 seconds separating them from the time trials here now.
Oh, we've just had a problem in the New Zealand crew off the seat there for Naomi Robertson in the stroke seat. I think she's managed to get back on board, but she had to come to a screaming halt there, New Zealand. We're looking at France now, who have got an opportunity here if they have seen the problems in the New Zealand crew. Yes, look, Naomi Robertson closest to us in the stroke seat, back on her seat now. But this is also close, and they're both diagonally now coming in towards one another. Oh, they are both heading for disaster here. It is getting oh so close. I can't really tell who's in whose water. I think it is in fact France that have moved across here towards New Zealand.
Absolutely, but New Zealand were also moving in across, so they're now both in the center of the lanes. Again, that is not a problem as long as you don't have interference. New Zealand, as you said, that seat problem, that really threw their navigation. They were very lucky that they didn't miss that turning buoy out there, but New Zealand have very much straightened up. Look at the rate that they're gone up to here now. They are moving. New Zealand faster boat out there now. France right up with them. This is going to come down to that sprint, that all-important sprint. I think New Zealand just getting caught up on that last marker, but it hasn't slowed them down too much. Who can take advantage of this little bit of a swell that we're seeing here? New Zealand are flying in, France right next to them. New Zealand just edging off course slightly. Bow is pointed off. That will mean a little bit of a longer run here, but it is New Zealand now getting to that beach first.
Well, New Zealand were 9 seconds quicker through the preliminary races. This has been closed right down here to less than a second. They'll hit the beach at the same time. We've got Jamison McConaughey going up for the buzzer, and he will hit it ahead of a flying Alban Marson for France, who was leaping to try and claim victory there. Just 1 second it came down to in this round of 16, Neve. Wow, that's certainly woken us up here in the commentary booth, but very pleased faces there for the Kiwis, Jamison McConaughey and Naomi Robertson. Despite that slight issue with their seat, they managed to claim victory. A little bit of difficult steering, and Niv, I think those races that are going to be close today like that, reading those conditions coming into the final, say, 50 metres of rowing, where you start to get the breakers on the beach, you can find those surges, adapt, like you say, bring the rate up, drop the rate down to catch them, is going to be way more important today than it was yesterday.
Oh, absolutely, because there wasn't really any waves to catch yesterday. That was the thing. We had little breakers right on shore, but there was no swell really that we're seeing here now that is pushing the boats on to the water. So yeah, that's going to be the difference, because you can, just as easy as you can catch a wave and it can bring the speed right up, you can also get caught in between them and it can slow the speed right down. And that's what I mean about the experience. Like, that's, you know, once you get up on it, you need to shift your body weight so that the the bow is sitting right on the wave in the correct position. And here we're seeing the next knockout, Ukraine versus Italy. So what we are seeing is the bow person sits in ready, so they have time to tighten up their feet, get the handles of the oars in, and make sure they're happy. And they can also be straightening the boat if it happens to go off course, which it does so easily with these little waves. So Italy here on the left hand side as we're looking, Ukraine on the right. Pretty even run. I would say Italy off into the boat first, but it's actually Ukraine. Oh, Italy have a problem here, just struggling to get on the sea, so that has allowed Ukraine now to pull a few strokes ahead already in this race.
Oh, that just goes to show you that that swift entry, that clean entry into the boat can really set up your rhythm here. The Italians are on the back foot and chasing now. They were already slower in the time trial, 2:38 recorded by them on Friday's preliminary, which was in that processional format. The Ukrainians 2:33, so 5 seconds quicker on Friday. So Ukraine here will come in with confidence. Maxim Tishchenko and Maria Robel of Ukraine still leading. They were running over that slalom boy, hugging it very closely. But Italy have come right back into this, Niamh.
Yeah, Italy are always strong. Like, no matter what category we see, Italy are always strong. They put a lot of work into this, and of course, being on home waters, they're going to want to show off what they can do. They did unfortunately have a little problem at the end, but look at this. They're getting to that turn. They are flying it, hugging that boy here. They have gotten in and out, but Ukraine just as quick around that turn. I would say Ukraine probably had a bit of a better turn. In fact, they were probably slower going in, but they've come out much straighter, much faster. Italy going that little bit wide now, but starting to correct themselves and come back online. Oh, this is going to be another cracker of a race all at the way in. So Ukraine now flying up with, we can see the rates there, Italy 42, Ukraine 37, shortening up those strokes. You can see there the Ukraine crew really sitting up tall at that finish, no lie back whatsoever. So trying to use, this is how we see the adapting, but Ukraine are really going off. So are Italy. Italy are heading for those red buoys, that exclusion zone that you do not want to go into. So both crews now heading over.
Hit that exclusion zone buoy, Niamh, and that's really thrown them. Blade comes out of the hand there of Lucio Cozzolino. That's very unfortunate for them. Ukraine have seen the opportunity here because Italy were all the way over in that area where they're not allowed to be, and look at the distance that's managed to glean for the Ukraine team.
Oh, Ukraine roar, they're just thinking about jumping out way too early there. That was way too early because it's way too deep there, but she hang on with her legs over the side. She has a longer run to do, so here comes Italy. Even though Ukraine made it to the water, to the beach first, look how close this is.
Oh, wow. Did she hit that buzzer? I think she did.
Just a
0.28, that was cutting it fine there for Ukraine. And given that Italy had that disaster with the navigation, it should not have been that close, Niamh.
No, but Ukraine, what happened to them is they had moved right up into the centre of the course, which is fine for rowing, but it means you're landing straight down from the starting sequence and the finish line. But then you have to go back over, if we're looking at the screen here, back over to the left-hand side, get around that flag. So they actually added many meters to themselves on that run. And I think that's what happened to them. Even though they were so far ahead on the water, Italy came in at more of a straighter line, less of a run. And you can see the devastation here from Italy just missing out.
He's going to need to move soon. I think they're warning him that the next race is already lining up on the course. So he needs to shuffle out the way because Turkey will be occupying that lane now. He's up, he's walking, he's moving away. Here is our stunning location. Genoa is just, we're right up sort of northern part of Italy. I noticed that actually one of the Italians there from Tuscany, just the neighbouring region, a little bit further down the coast actually. But we've had some great conditions here yesterday and today. Stunning sunshine, perfect weather for being on the beach. And this is Cyprus on the left-hand side of the picture versus Turkey.
Attention.
Yeah, going to be another race, just 4 seconds separating these now at the time trials. Things tightening up here now as we're into knockout number 7. Oh,
that was definitely a false start. I don't know whether they'll have been brought back for that. Interesting. No, that's... Do you know what, Niamh? maybe we didn't hear something there, but
I didn't actually hear a hooter.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
But obviously it did because they both went, but it's just maybe we...
Well, look,
Yeah.
we are where we are. Maybe we're not down there on the beach. We're also not umpires, so Neve and I might have misgathered that. But it did look like a false start there from Turkey. They're bound now, both underway. I just caught there as well on our footage. There was a seat malfunction by Mikolas Tanos in the bow seat of Cyprus. Not the crew on screen at the moment, but Cyprus to the right-hand side of your picture. Had a few issues there getting off and underway, but it's Turkey with the advantage here. Igit Demirkan and Efnan Sezgin. Cyprus there, you can see they are now using that sliding seat, all okay and back online. And we saw a few issues yesterday, Neve, even in the calm conditions, seats getting knocked. They're really tricky contraptions. If you've never used a rowing boat, the sliding seat kind of locks in to a set of rails, and it's almost like I'm trying to think of something, the sort of contraption and the hooks that you have to almost take the whole thing off to put it back on again in alignment. It's almost like screwing in like a screw or a pin. If you get it misthreaded, it can really mean disaster for you.
Absolutely, and we saw that yesterday. We didn't think we would because it was so flat, but we saw it, and like it was a disaster for one of the crews there, Spain, who missed out in the mixed double. We thought they'd get into the A final, and they didn't. But look at this again, overturning on that outside buoy and having to make big corrections. It's more so on that right-hand lane, I would say. I think the rowers were saying yesterday because we have a bit of a headland, a bit of a pier here to the right-hand side, and that's creating that little bit of a funny water there in lane one, I would say, but nice recovery there from Cyprus. But Turkey here now with a nice lead here, about a boat length as they come down towards that final marker. There in the Cyprus boat, Michalis Tanos, we saw him last year in the junior men's solo. Big speed difference now, Turkey flying up here using those waves.
Oh, look, Cyprus has caught a wave here. That was up at 14 kilometres per hour. They definitely caught something good, but it's dropped off now. They've fallen into the trough, as have Turkey. So this is going to be absolutely critical now for the next few strokes to see who can catch these last few waves in towards the beach. Turkey will, I think, be held up a little bit there. They didn't quite catch that right from what I saw. They wanted to be ahead of that wave rather than behind it. They've got the shorter run, though, into the beach, and it will be Efnan Sezgin for Turkey that taps that buzzer, but that did get quite close, and Cyprus, I think, would have felt like they had a real opportunity there that was maybe missed. Headed hands for Cyprus's Michalis Tanos, as that is the end of the road for them here in this junior mixed double sculls.
Yeah, when it comes down to these knockouts, like, you either win or you're gone, you're eliminated. So you've just one shot at it here, and it could be game over. But yes, for Turkey, we'll see them in a little while in the quarterfinals later today. Next up, though, final knockout of the Coastal Junior Mixed Double Sculls. On our left-hand side of the screen, we have Austria, and then we have Germany.
More border battles. More the battle of the borders going on, Austria and Germany. And
now, nothing separating these in the time trial. Germany 2:34.06, Austria 2:34.23. Absolutely nothing.
So this is going to be a great race, and that's what we'd expect for the last match up in this round of 16. So try and get a nice clean start. We're underway here now with this last of the spaces to find in the quarterfinals for this junior mixed double sculls. Let's take a look at how they enter the boats. That is Austria away done. A few interesting strokes there on the port side blade for Austria. But Germany looking good here too.
Yeah, Germany had the first stroke pulled, but then they got caught slightly out of time and off again. Of course, like, the bow person is sitting ready to go. They're eager to get going, but the strokes person, they have to pause and wait for that strokes person to get in, get set, and then pull together. And then obviously you're getting that push from the boat handlers, and that can throw things off balance as well. So the timing of those first few strokes is crucial to get right. Both crews now at that second marker. So as we look out, they have to go to that left-hand side of it, stay nice and close. Germany taking the wider route around it, Austria choosing to hit it. And I think, like, you know, you have to be very clever with your navigation. You don't want to hit the shaft because that can really tighten things up and slow you down here.
Germany cutting that very fine on that turning point buoy, but to their advantage, they've executed that very well here. The waves you can see from our close-up shots were just pushing these guys around, and they're going to get even more of that here on this return leg. Let's see how this lane closest to us here in the commentary box, lane 2 actually, I think it is, on the far side that Austria are in. I think they're still drifting over. It is a really challenging lane to be in, that lane 2. And here they are from behind. You can just see there the swells that they're trying to read, trying to catch. There's one coming up behind them now. You can see how the shadows on the water are showing where those swells and where those waves are. Oh, Austria right back into this now, Niamh. They dropped back a little bit, but they're now right alongside Germany.
They absolutely are. So here comes down to the experience of riding those waves, because here they are. Turkey have a little bit of a swell here that they can use if they want. Austria is still the faster moving boat. They've caught a nice one, but they're going to come down into the trough of it here now. Germany up at 44 strokes per minute. Austria 38. Germany really shortening it up, really quick strokes, but Austria looks like are going. Look at these, they are using those waves here massively. Germany coming right into the center of the beach. It looks like they'll have a bit of a longer run, I would say, but Austria, they're both out together here.
Well, the German stroke man said his idol, Paul O'Donovan, pull like a dog, trying to get those strokes in to get them into the beach, but it's going to be Austria that have that final burst of energy towards the line. That run is just so important in these events, and that was a round of 16, which goes to show you when we get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals, that's the kind of quality we're expecting. And big smiles all around there for Austria, because that was quite the performance. They came right back into that after the turning point buoy, Niamh.
They did. They did for sure. And they just had a bit more experience, I think, with the waves is what it showed to me. But that sprint, you could see Germany, how like she was struggling. Her legs just weren't getting into a sprinter's motion. You could see just how much of a struggle it was. And that's the thing, because your legs are so used to the rowing movement for those 2 minutes, and then to try and get into rowing, it's really, really tough. But we are going to head to the beach here now and have a chat with the winners, Austria.
3 minutes.
Nicolas, what a close race. My goodness, it all came down to that beach sprint at the end there, didn't it?
Yeah, I just saw at the last few meters that we were at the same height, and so I just ran for my life after I fell down.
Well, congratulations for making it through. Obviously, we're looking out at the conditions as we're stood here on the beach, but we'd love to hear direct from you. What is it like out there on the water?
It's much better than the last few days, because you can ride the waves much better. Yeah, I think it's good, yeah.
Nicolas, Austria through to the quarterfinals. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant stuff. Well, next up we have got the under-19 men's double sculls. So let's see who also makes it through to those all-important quarters.
Thank you very much, Gemma. And Austria are going to need the same amount of luck here than they did in that last round, because they're going up in the first round of the junior men's double sculls as well against Austria. So that to look forward to. Here are the results from those knockout rounds. We had Australia and Great Britain alongside Spain and Portugal going through to the quarters, and they'll be joined also with New Zealand and Ukraine alongside Turkey, as well as Austria in that very close race. A couple of really small margins there, less than a second, 0.58 in that last race of the day. And we saw an even closer one between Italy and Ukraine earlier, 0.28 of a second that Ukraine were victorious over the hosts, Italy. But I think, Niamh, the conditions today, we just heard there from the Austrian, from Nicolas Reutmeier, that it's much better, much more interesting for these guys, because they can put into practice a lot of what they've trained for, which is wave reading.
Absolutely. And you know, look, a lot of crews are still training a lot on flat water and trying to get used to it, and it is paying off for some people. But it's the difference on a day like today is that time spent in the coastal conditions, reading where the waves are coming from, reading where the wind is coming from, you know, what size the breakers are, how it's going to see. And I'm not sure if it was caught on camera, but the last race there in Austria, they were lucky to win it, but when the bowman jumped out of the boat actually spun on its side and actually got in his way and slowed him down when he went to take off on that sprint. So to be able to do that and come back and win, that was very good. But you just need to be so adaptable to it. So here we have Austria and Australia in the first knockout of the Coastal Junior Men's Double Sculls.
A seeds problem there. Stroke man Oscar Skill-Gamborg, who we saw in yesterday's singles, solos round. Sorry, my brain is still waking up this morning. And joined by Samuel Forbes, who we actually saw already this morning in the mixed double sculls. So it is it's tough work here for Australia. They're doubling up all over the place, and 2 categories in one day. Blimey, Samuel Forbes in the bow seat for that Australia crew is going to be one tired man by the end of today. But they're trailing currently. It is still Austria out in front. Vincent Zwick and Valentin Rauscher, who... again, we were talking about crews training a lot on flat water. Austria's options when it comes to coastal rowing, very few.
Very few there. You could just see the blade getting caught up on the little bit of a wave there. So very even. Australia have come right back into this now, up at that turning marker. They're going for the wide route, but they're going faster. If you can see, their speed is faster here. Then Austria took a more direct route, but slowed it down. So they slowed the speed of their boat here now. So Australia are flying it here now. There was 22 seconds of a difference in the time trials between these 2 crews on Friday. Australia were the fastest. Austria were 16th place. So you're seeing that experience here from Australia now. Really good navigation on the way back from both crews, in fact.
Indeed, and you can see there in terms of the waves that Australia are managing to catch. But Austria riding one at the moment. Look, you can see they're 15 kilometers per hour. They're trailing, but they've caught something, as now have Australia. This is going to kind of chop and change depending on the swell, depending on those rolling waves, and you want to stay ahead of it. If you need to take a few quick strokes just to get, and that's exactly what Austria are doing here. Look, a few short, sharp strokes. They can see the wave coming in. They want to ride in front of it to try and catch up with Australia, but Australia now heading in towards the beach.
Yeah, no surprise there of the big comeback there from Australia. Nice exit, nice sharp jump out of that boat. Flung his feet out the side around that flag. And here come Australia to take the win and the first place in the quarterfinals of the Coastal Junior Mixed Double Sculls. Yeah, they had a lot of work there to try and come back into that race, but that's certainly what they did.
Not to be for Austria, like we saw in the mixed double sculls. And I was just thinking, brave of Australia to have entered both of these events with Samuel Forsberg doubling up, because if he'd have been in the last heat of the mixed, but the first heat here in the junior men's, he'd have had 2 back-to-back races. That would have been pretty challenging, right? So that, you know, they were banking on a good time trial performance, clearly, which they managed to execute on both. They were right up at the front end of both time trials, but it's still a nice little walk there, and a big well done for Team Australia, who will progress through in this junior men's double sculls. 1 minute. We just heard the announcement there from the jury, from the umpires. Boats and blades now being put into the water. Ukraine versus Spain here in this next race.
I think when crews enter these races, they're not actually sure of the timetables. So they don't know if it's going to be back-to-back. But at the same time, when we get to later on in the day and we get the quarters, semis, B-finals, A-finals, everything is back-to-back. So, you know, the smart athletes would have been training like that. Their training would have involved racing, take a quick break, racing again, take a quick break. And again, that's how we'll see the difference later on. Those who have something left in their legs to do that sprint up the beach when they're after, you know, 2-3 races, pretty much back to back, versus those who are stumbling up the beach and, you know, their legs can't work. I love the bucket hats that all the Spanish rowers seem to be wearing.
They're great, aren't they? They are a good little addition to the uniform. There we go, tense moments ahead of that initial opening sprint, and then you've got to calm yourself right down to be very precise with putting those feet into the shoes. getting hold of those blades and taking those first few strokes with your partner on screen there. Marco Leata Samper of Spain alongside Anders Washington Agrebedon. And there is Ukraine on screen now, Arten Baranov and Andrei Shaforost in the bow seat.
Yeah.
And taking a look now, I was going to say, I don't know who's got the advantage here.
So Ukraine definitely got off to a better start. They had those first few strokes pulled, but Spain got themselves right back into it. Now we're seeing the swells are coming in there at the second marker. It was this morning earlier on from the first marker in, whereas they're getting caught up and down on that second marker. So that'll become tricky to make sure that you're at the correct side of that, I would say, as the morning goes on. But both crews now heading for that turning buoy. Spain, both of them looking over their shoulders. Both crews look to be staying very tight here to the marker. Look at Ukraine absolutely hugging that buoy. Spain taking wider route, but again keeping speed up that little bit more. But Ukraine now with that tight turn now, both of them taking off. Slight problem there in Ukraine. I think it was more timing issue there, getting off together. But look at the speed from Spain already now. They have it up to full speed here now as they come back towards that middle marker.
Well, as you mentioned, though, Neve, the swells starting much earlier, and it's where they can try and identify that those are coming from. Can they see them from where they are in the boat? Can they feel the water underneath them changing? Spain here are still catchable for Ukraine if they can ride. Look, here comes the wave behind Spain. Let's see if they can catch it. See that speed? Yeah, indeed. Look, there it goes all the way up to 15 kilometers per hour in comparison to Ukraine. They really caught that well there, Spain, and opened up that margin back to their opposition.
Absolutely. Ukraine took advantage of one there as well, but now they just slowed down slightly again. So Spain are coming here now. Another little breaker right ahead of them. So they're after slowing down as they try and fight those last few waves. Ukraine coming back into it. Spain now are out of the boat. They are making their approach up to the finish line. Ukraine are out, tumble from both of them out of the boat, but they are coming. But Spain have done enough here now to take that spot in the quarterfinals.
A great performance there from Spain, reading everything very well, and a little high five there. But Ukraine out of this men's double sculls competition. They've got a mixed crew still in, though. They won that very tight race between Italy and the last junior mixed double sculls. And brilliant, Neve, I think that we've got the depth now across the juniors to have not only men's and women's doubles, but also a mixed category as well.
Absolutely, like the mixed, when it comes to the Olympics, there will be obviously a senior mixed category, so these athletes will probably be eyeing up that, I would say. And it's great to see like a lot of these rowers were in solo boats last year and how they've made the transition into the double this year, and a lot more of them are kind of doubling up and doing both. So it is totally different to rowing by yourself in a solo. You know, you have someone else to rely on. I think that's always quite nice. But look at the different approaches here to the start. Bahamas right down like a sprinter, down low to the ground. Egypt then staying nice and tall. It's all these little things make such a difference, and it tells, you know, are you getting the most out of yourself by being lower, being higher?
Oh, some points there from the Egyptian bow seat, Ziad Morsi, who I think was trying to tell partner Elatik Hozan that something was up. But I can see that the Bahamas have gotten away well on screen at the moment, and as have Egypt. So they've obviously resolved whatever it was that they were trying to sort out there. And a little turnaround there from Ziad Morsi. We saw him yesterday in the junior men's solo competing. Now back here again today in this men's double scull. But look at this, the Bahamas, Tanja Banos and Phoenix Robinson right up alongside here on this outward leg.
Yeah, and we saw Ziad Morsi also coxing that quad yesterday as well. So he has lots of experience out this on this course, and I'm sure that will help with navigation. But yes, as you said, Bahamas right up into it. They're just getting caught on that second, knocking down that second marker there now. But Egypt now pushing themselves into the lead. Egypt were third in the time trial. Bahamas were 14th. There was about 14 seconds of difference between both of these crews. But today now they're much more evenly matched. And that's what happens when you put two crews head to head. Things totally change.
Yeah, they definitely do, and that time trial format does not work for everyone. Look, Bahamas go really wide on that buoy there. That's not going to help them out. We're trying to catch up with Egypt to a much tighter around the turn. Beautiful pictures here of these bits of wake just sort of filtering around that turning point. Stunning stuff from our drone shots, but that gap has opened up now because the Bahamas tight turn didn't quite work out for them.
Yeah, and that's again the difference with reading the wind, reading the waves. You know, you're going to see a lot of crews today starting to slow the boat as they approach that turn. Of course, it's a fine line because you don't want to miss it, but you also need to slow the speed. Whereas I think Bahamas just hadn't slowed the speed. They got to the buoy and they were still moving forward. So that we'll see a lot more of that, a lot more handbraking before they even reach that marker buoy, just so they can stay nice and tight to it. But Egypt doing really well here now. Lots of experience in this boat, as we said. Ziad Morsi, we saw him yesterday in the solo, coxing the quad. Here he is reading the waves. Lovely now. He's getting ready, just slightly tumbling back in the boat as he pulled in his oars. But here he comes, flying sprint up the beach. Bahamas now using those last few waves to get into the beach, but well done there to Egypt, booking themselves into the quarterfinals.
And look, I think that even by being in these knockout stages of competition is a big achievement. We've had lots and lots of entries, as we heard from Gwyn earlier, from over 50 nations across the Coastal and Beach Sprint Final Championships. So even in this under-19 men's double sculls, we had 22 entries that has been whittled down to just 16 to go into these knockout rounds. So even by making it this far, you've done pretty well.
Absolutely, you have indeed. Lovely shots here of our Moby cruise ship passing us here. Oh, they're the fans that are coming in to support us.
I told you they'd be back, Neve.
You did.
Last night I said they were off out to sea for their sort of evening sunset. They're back again this morning. Now, Peru versus Finland on this next race. And,
Yes.
the Salmi siblings for Finland here, Andre and Kasper Salmi, and they're going up against Peru's Thomas Parry and Lorenzo Diaz Canseco.
Now just 11 seconds separating these, 10 in fact separating them in the time trials. So that's not a huge amount based on the conditions that we saw on Fridays for the time trials. Big waves. You know, it ended up being a water finish on Friday due to the conditions. So I think this will be another close race.
Yeah, especially for those who are perhaps more inclined to be better sprinters on the beach. That water finish will not have helped them out. So now that they've got that opportunity to try and sprint back, problems and issues there for Finland. Not a clean start for them. A few paused moments for them having to regather, the Salmi brothers.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a slower start. And you can see their big lie back. They're taking a really slow, long approach to their strokes compared to, if you see over across on the far side of the screen, Peru are absolutely flying up and down those rails on their sliding seat, trying to go with the short, snappy, fast strokes, sitting up nice and tall here. As they go through that bounce, they're already around that second marker. Finland's slow start, just putting them on the back foot here now as they head out towards that turning marker.
Now, I must say, though, Neve, we do have our youngest competitor, I think, here in the bounce seat for Finland. Kasper Salmi, just 14 years of age, turns 15 in a couple of weeks' time, start of October. But even, again, like I say, to get through to this knockout stage of competition is difficult. But when you're 14 years of age, and I've rowing with his brother, Andre, must be a pretty good feeling to have gotten this far in the competition. But Peru, they are absolutely steamrolling this now. Great shots of Genoa in the background. They will need to make an adjustment though here, Neve, because they are sort of drifting in towards lane one.
Yes, Peru have gone right over on to the course. They're heading for lane one. They're going to have to do a lot of corrections here to get the shortest run possible. They probably have enough done here in terms of they have a nice lead. And look at them flying here up on a wave, making good use of it. Downing that stroke rate now again as they go down into the trough of the wave. Another one is coming here now and they're surging. They are doing this beautifully.
This is exemplary beach sprint rowing here from Peru. They've read the textbook and they are delivering exactly what you'd expect here, sort of matching their stroke rate, matching their speed to the peaks and troughs of these waves to push them in towards the beach, and that has given them absolutely huge amount of buffer back to second position here in this knockout round. Finland in the distance still for this crew. Finland now just starting to dismount, and the 14-year-old in the bow seat, Kasper Salmi, will take the beach run up, and a big round of applause for him, I'm sure. The youngster, I'm sure we won't see the last of him here in Genoa. It will be many beach sprint finals to come for Finland, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Finland have been doing a lot of work, and we're seeing them. We saw them in the podium. Joel Nakarinen in Wales, he was third, and I think we'll be seeing him later in the solo. So he's definitely been, I'm sure, influencing these young athletes, helping them along the way. Well done there, though, to Peru, heading to the quarterfinals. We are on to knockout 5 here now, Coastal Junior Men's Double Sculls. This time it is Ireland versus the reigning world champions of Italy.
1 minute.
Well, we saw reigning world champions from Italy knocked out yesterday, Niamh, so, anything can happen here.
Yes, we did see Lucio. He was first last year, knocked down to third this year. Still got a medal. He was still up on the podium. But yes, being a reigning world champion does not mean anything, because you've new athletes coming along that's all the time getting stronger and stronger. And, the race just may not go your way, depending on conditions. So yes, here on our start line there for Ireland, we have Aidan Barry on the right-hand side, Pasquale Tamburino of Italy on the left. Oh, Italy just steadying himself.
I was going to say, using the start awning as a bit of a balance. Raring to go.
Yeah, Ireland.
That was a tentative start from both there, but called like a spring, ready to unleash and ready to go, and off we go here, the reigning world champions on your screen. Brilliant to see both Bellomo and Tamburino back here in this under-19 event. Just goes to show you that they must have been pretty young winning that world championship last year to still be eligible for this under-19 event here.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Italy probably got off to a little bit of a quicker start, but Ireland here are doing really, really well to stay in that touching distance of them. There was only 8 seconds separating them in the time trials on Friday. I mentioned Aidan Barry there. He is joined by Oren O'Donovan there, Ring Rowing Club. Very proud. Lots of watchers, I'm sure, tuning in this morning. Doing really well, but Italy are flying it out to that turning buoy. I think we're starting to see that little bit of a wash from that cruise ship that passed us a while ago. It's about to catch them here at the marker buoy, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right, Niamh. And again, that was most of the conditions that we saw yesterday came off the back of these cruise ships, these big steamliners that are coming through into the port of Genoa that sits just to the right-hand side of the screen. But look at that turn from Italy. It was one of the best that I have seen, not only all day but all weekend. That was stunning from the Italian duo. Right back on track. They are right down the centre of these buoy lines and expertly steered there in the bows. You can see him looking around. Leonardo Bellomo is starting to adjust them in. Ireland, though, off picture at the moment, but they are struggling a little bit with that navigation, Niamh.
Yeah, I think they're just getting caught up in that wash that we saw from the cruise ship and heading for that exclusion zone, those red buoys that you do not want to go into. There's rocks there that people are trying to avoid. But Italy, as you said, they just waited and pulled that extra stroke around that turn and have navigated this beautifully. Ireland now back navigating back on course here. I can hear and see the boat handlers giving them a shout to make sure they get back on course. But look at this from Italy. Super racing. They're up on that wave as they make their approach to that beach. They are out and sprinting for home.
Yeah, sprinting for home. There he is, Leonardo Bellomo, not only responsible for the steering, getting them home to the beach, but also responsible for that sprinting as well. A very important job that the bow seat has indeed on this homeward leg, and that is what Oren O'Donovan of Ireland has got to do as well. Pointed home by the boat handlers, just making sure that after that time out at sea, that they know which direction they're running in. And I've noticed that actually not only this year, but in previous years, Niamh, actually, the boat handlers, especially when we've got really rough conditions, sort of once the athletes are onto dry land, signalling them towards their flag, because a lot of them are very disorientated.
Absolutely, and particularly if you're not landing, like the ideal scenario is that you land directly down from the flag and you just run straight up to it. But because what we're seeing is, you know, there's a lot of pushing of the waves and wind out there, so people are landing a little bit off course. We saw it yesterday where they had to come, you know, they had a big run to even get anywhere near the flag. So it's really important, and that's an important role of the boat handlers, is to be like, okay, here, they throw out their hand, go this direction, because it is hard. You're just so disorientated when you go from looking at the sea, rowing in, and then turning around, looking at all the crowds, in particular if there's a lot of people there. It's hard to pick out that flag sometimes.
Well, we're now back on the start line with round 6 of this men's double scull, and we've got Germany, Colin Gaugler and Justus de Gruyter going up against Ollie Snoxall and Benjamin Snoxall, the twins from Great Britain, who are looking to stay as in sync as possible, as you'd expect from a pair of twins. Lots of twins across the rowing world, not only in coastal but also flat water as well. Lots of successful twins. Germany just getting caught on a bit of bubbly water there. Every stroke trying to get those blades dug into the water. You can see that with those sort of undulating bits of water, it can be really easy to miss a stroke, Niamh.
Oh, completely, yeah. So you just have to be so careful, particularly with that push that you're getting as well from the boat handlers. It's so important to just stay as calm as you can. Now, we did see Benjamin Snoxall, he got a bronze medal in this last year. He teamed up with Cochrane Bear. So he's after joining his twin now, or Ollie's after joining him, we'll say, in this category this year. So I'm sure they'll be hoping to be up on the podium together as they head out now to that turning marker. Very evenly matched here between the two, about 5 seconds, less 4.5 seconds separating them in the time trials. This is beautiful turning here now. Let's see who can get out. And again, they're failing to make that extra turn. If that was me, I would make an extra stroke around that turn just to make sure I'm navigating straight back to the beach. I think they are starting to pull that little bit too early here now, and it means they are having to correct themselves to get back on course.
Yeah, just correcting that. We see that a lot. That's a very common trap that a lot of these boats are falling into, but dealing with that well. In the bow seat there on screen, Ollie Snoxall brothers from near me at home, actually, Niamh. They're from Reading, Reading Rowing Club. So they're pushing on now ahead of Germany. Still not enough to say it's comfortable, though. We've seen boats come back from this kind of margin before, because that dismount, that landing in towards the beach is one of the most technical and complex bits of this 2.5 minute race. So here come Great Britain. Germany really punching hard now. They're up at 43 strokes per minute. They've upped that rating to try and close in on Great Britain, and it's working. Here come GB. They're going to hit the sand first, but look at this from Germany. A little trip there from Ollie Snoxall in the bow seat. Germany also on the run, and I think the Germans might just push it here to... I was going to say perfection, but they just fall shy. Great Britain by half a second managed to hang on, but we did say there, Niamh, Great Britain with a boat length with 50 metres of the road to go, but the run, a huge percentage of this race can be won on the run.
Yeah, and we also have to understand, like, the beach, the water isn't coming onto the sand in equal places where the two boats are landing. So someone, you know, if the tide just happens to be a little bit further out on the left-hand side, they'll have more of sand to run on. Whereas, you know, it's, as you can see here, it's not a straight line where the water comes in. So that all comes into it as well. You know, some crews may have to pull an extra stroke to get themselves onto the beach. Some may be able to jump out early, but on this beach you definitely do not want to jump out too early, because there's a big slope down into the water, so it's key that you kind of wait to the last minute. But we're on to our next second last knockout in the coastal junior men's double sculls, and this time we have Estonia versus Turkey. Now only about 2.5 seconds separating these in the time trial, so you mentioned it earlier, things get very tight around now.
Yeah, Heat 7, Heat 8 in these knockout competitions in the last round of 16 is where we've seen some of the most breathtaking racing. And the that tension music just building.
Attention.
And moments away, they just have to wait now. There goes the buzzer. Off we go. Turkey and Estonia try to vie for that quarter-final space. What a lovely entry into the boat there from both crews. Turkey just trying to get in unison, get together. Estonia looked to have that nailed down. Oh, commentator's curse there. Bow seat of Estonia. Nikolai Kiradi just got his blades caught a little bit there, Niamh.
Yeah, it's interesting because the bow person is the one sitting there ready to go, eager to get going. And in both crews there was the bow person that had a little bit of a stumble. I think bums came off seat slightly. So it's not always the strokes person's fault when something goes wrong there at the start. You could be sitting there ready, and just if the water catches you at the wrong time or the wrong place, you can be thrown out. So both crews now at that second marker buoy. Turkey going nice and wide around it. They're going to have to come back over to that right-hand side now, adding a few meters to themselves. Estonia seem to be taking that little bit of a straighter route here now. But look at this now. We can see the swell building here, and it's going to keep building, I think. Nice back there now from Turkey.
Oh, Turkey, they have been pushed off that mark quite wide,
Yes.
even wider, in fact, than Estonia, who's going to sneak round. We used the comparison of an athletics track yesterday. You know, you want that inside line, inside lane, and you can see how here the lines and the diagonals actually coming towards one another. And Turkey, I think, need to adjust if they want to ensure that they're right back towards their boat handlers on the beach. And Estonia really thriving on this return leg here.
Yes, I think they can see what's happening, but them themselves are ending up going wide now. So they're heading for those red buoys that you do not want to go inside, or you do not want to hit. Turkey really after correcting themselves here now. That's who we're looking at. They're making sure they can land straight down from their flag. Estonia have also adjusted their course. They're back on course here now, evenly matched with their speeds. Let's see who can use those waves as they come into the beach. Both of them upping the rates here now. Turkey, you can see the power they are going with. They are up on that wave now. They are surging. Bow is out of the water. Here they come, but Estonia right up along with them.
Estonia, if they time this right, have got the shorter run into the beach, but it's a fall there from the bow seat. Nikolai Kiradi, he face plants the water. Turkey have seen that opportunity, door open for them to have a nice, safe run in towards the beach. Estonia, if they could have executed that landing, Niamh, that would have been even closer then than that 2-second margin. In fact, I think the result might have been different.
I think so too, and it was funny because Turkey had a little bit of a stumble too, but it was just Estonia's was worse than theirs. And you could see Nikolai Kiradi there of Estonia sprinting, and his legs just, you know, they were tired. They clearly were tired, and they would be after giving it your all to get back into the race the way they did there. But it just goes to show, you know, that sprint is so important. That was our second last knockout. The 1 minute warning has been given for the final knockout of the Coastal Junior Men's Double Sculls. This time it is France versus New Zealand. Now just 1 second separating these in the time trial. For New Zealand, we're going to see Charles Beale there. He's on the left-hand side, right-hand side now of our screen. He'll be joining Jake Newton, who is sitting in the boat ready to go. And then for France in the stroke seat at the starting line at the moment, Maxence Very, and he'll be joining Samuel de Boussac, who is sitting ready to go.
And calm scenes here as we get ready to start. A nice low position for Maxence Very of France on the left-hand side. He's getting that little bit lower.
So I'm looking at the bow people here. They're sitting ready, but they're really having to do a lot of work today to try and keep the bow straight. They're tapping. Here they go, evenly matched on that sprint. France in, New Zealand in. New Zealand are getting pushed. They're still getting set up, and it is France who have taken those first few strokes.
Yeah, you can see France there on screen compared to New Zealand, who are a little bit more disjointed in those first few strokes. Quick look around from bow seat Jake Newton for New Zealand, because he can see that they're being thrown all over the place. Look at these waves that they're having to push out against, and it is throwing them all over the shop. And I think that Niamh, on this way out, they've got the slalom to contend with, and with the choppier waves, the bouncier waters, it could throw you, if you're trying to go for a really fine cut on the slalom boys, the waves might not like that. They might throw you and have different ideas.
Exactly, the waves not might like that, and as well, the boat handlers, the direction, like the boat handlers really have to be on the ball that the bow is pointing the right direction when they give that push, because I think that's what happened New Zealand there. They were just angled over to the left-hand side slightly, and that push just threw them even further over to the left. So New Zealand crew had to do a lot of work there to get back right on course. Looks like they're going to go a little bit wide around that turn. It looks like France staying nice and wide. Or sorry, nice and narrow to it. Yeah, New Zealand have gone flying past that there.
Yeah, that was unfortunate because they'd made a really big push to come back onto terms. They'd latched back onto France in the distance between the second slalom buoy and the turning point, but all of that hard work now lost on that slightly lagging turn that pushed them too wide, and you can see the difference that's made on the lead and the margin for France. Different runner in towards the beach though this time around. Samuel de Bussac is going to be our sprinter, and he's going to be also responsible for steering them in. You can see him looking over his shoulder. He'll be warning Maxence Villiers that there's a slalom boy coming into view. And New Zealand now, quick looks from them too. They've got a wave pushing them up behind, but I don't know whether they've left that too late here.
Yeah, but look, it comes down to the exit here that France have. Can they do it? Well, they've just come to the beach, down onto his knees, but he's off and sprinting, high knees, and this is what you need. You need to pump those arms. You need to get those knees up nice and high on that sprint, and that's, I think, where a lot of people are failing. New Zealand jumping out maybe just slightly too early. They're having to run through the water a little bit, but great effort there from New Zealand coming up to the finish line now.
Well, you say running through the water, Neve. I mean, I feel like we talked about running on the sand being difficult, but I don't know whether you've ever tried to do like aqua aerobics or anything like that, but trying to run through water is perhaps just as difficult.
Yeah, and we saw it a lot last year in Barletta, where athletes were jumping out. Probably they could have rode another couple of strokes, and it ended up like they were really trying to run, and you just can't build up speed when you're in that bit of a water. It's quite shallow there where these boats are landing on, so it's not going to slow you down too much. But you'd prefer to be jumping onto the beach and getting a nice quick start rather than having to trudge through that little bit of water and then onto the sand. But we're gonna go down to the beach. I'm gonna hear from France, who just won their knockout.
Samuel, congratulations through to the quarterfinals. My first question is lane choice, because it's interesting watching which seems to be the favoured lane out there. So talk me through that first of all.
Sorry, I don't have my mind. So can you repeat, please?
Absolutely. Why did you choose your start lane?
We see the wave and choose this because
3
the surf
minutes.
is most favorable for me, because I know this condition. In France, we have simulated with that.
And what does it mean to you to have made it through to the next round?
Can you repeat?
No problem. Do you know what? I'm going to let you go and catch your breath, because it's been a tough race, I can tell. But good luck, and we look forward to seeing you in the quarterfinals.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got less than 3 minutes until the next race. Let's see what happens.
Well, that was extremely interesting to hear there from the French team, because Neve and I was just chatting here about what lanes we would choose. I personally think I would be choosing lane 1, which is not the lane that France were talking about there. They were saying that the benefit of lane 2 was that the waves today, I guess, in particular, are looking that much stronger, which means they get that big push into the beach if they can read that right. But Neve, if you get that wrong, that could actually be detrimental to your performance. And for me, lane 1 has that shorter run into the beach if you can time it well.
Absolutely, but again, like, these are experienced coastal rowers, and that's what they want to see. They want to use the waves because they know that they can build up huge speed and take advantage. They could, you could be coming second in a race, and if you get one of those waves and time it right, you can absolutely surge past your opposing crew. So I can see where they're coming from, but maybe not, as we've discussed, that little bit of a wind or channel that's happening out at that turning buoy, particularly on that lane to the right-hand lane, where we are seeing them being pushed over on to lane 1. They obviously didn't take that into consideration. Maybe they did, and they decided that the waves were more important to them. But yeah, really interesting to hear.
Very interesting. Well, we can look out for that now in this next round of competition, which is the women's double sculls. So we've just seen the men's double sculls. We now have 16 boats going in this knockout round to try and get their space into the quarterfinal. And the first crews lining up, New Zealand and South Africa, ready to rock and roll in this women's double sculls. And two nations that have travelled some way to be here in Europe to contest at these beach sprint finals. And we heard Gwyn right at the start of the day talking about the number of nations we've got racing here across this weekend. It's just been growing and growing, Niamh.
Absolutely, it really is. It was growing anyway before, I think, the announcement for LA, and that's just made it surge even more. So definitely, like, we're going to see next year and the year after, 25 and 26, like, it's going to blow up even more, I would say, and the entries will be a lot bigger. So I can't wait to see what happens with the sport over the next few years as it continues to grow. But back to today, yes, New Zealand, South Africa. New Zealand the fastest from the time trials, South Africa the slowest, 16th, the slowest qualifier, we'll say, in the top 16.
Yeah, exactly, because it was top 16 to qualify here. And we saw Lalitha Mukwingwana of South Africa, who's here on the start line in yesterday's junior women's solos. Back again for round 2 here in the doubles, joined by partner now Alana Henn, who sat there waiting for her to welcome her after that initial run. Oh, that was a huge face plant there for Mukwingwana. We just caught on camera. She was right there in the waves, in the water, but she's going to have to shake that off to get herself on the course and underway with this row. And there are New Zealand. You can see why they were fastest in the time trial, Niamh. They are absolutely motoring.
They are motoring. Their start probably didn't go to plan either. Just a bit slow getting off, but I think South Africa is just, you know, that incident that happened there, that just meant that they were even slower. But yes, New Zealand now flying out through those little bit of swells that are happening out at that second marker. You know, New Zealand have sent such a strong team here, both last weekend at the Coastal Championships and this weekend to the beach sprint. Some crews, I suppose, unlucky to not get into the last 16 based on the time trials on Friday. But this crew, oh no, South Africa, I'm looking over at them. They are going the wrong side of that second marker. That is a 30-second penalty to them. Looks like they're not going to go back and correct themselves. So that's 30 seconds added onto their time already.
Oh, that's so unfortunately, but I guess, you know, when you're trailing, we talked about this yesterday a little bit as to what the best course of action is, and actually for them to just keep pushing on to try and increase their overlap, maybe the better thing for them to do. But so tricky when you've got the sun in your eyes, you know, if you're trying to look round the bow. The bowwoman, Lara Henn, has just not been able to see that marker. But New Zealand, they are just absolutely flying here. The difference in speed there is because South Africa's going around the turning point, so that is probably not the best comparison. You can see South Africa now they've turned, matching New Zealand for speed. But the Kiwis, well, this combination of Lily Curnow and Tegan Negus, they're not going to slow down. Like we said, they're going for a time to ensure that they put in the best performance they can at each round and each stage of the competition. But they're almost at this final slalom buoy, just a straight line into the beach on this leg back. But yeah, a huge distance, and unfortunate for South Africa because even that distance will grow with that 30-second time penalty.
Yes, now New Zealand's navigation, I've been watching them all the way back. They have been phenomenal. We saw a few crews doing it yesterday, but New Zealand's navigation, they did take the time just to take that extra little stroke around that turn. I think they had to make sure they didn't come into South Africa who were coming into them, and it really played well for them because they just navigated beautifully. Great little run there up the beach here. So that is Tegan Negus and Lily Curnow going into the quarterfinal of the Coastal Junior Women's Double Sculls. Well done there to South Africa, coming in to take their final few strokes. Bow person getting ready. That is Lara Henn. She's making her sprint up the beach.
Yeah, great performance despite everything that was thrown at them. They've made it back, and unfortunately end of the road for them. But like we say, they've already come through the preliminary to get to this point. And those results from the preliminary have given them that knockout ranking. So we move now on to the next round, round 2 of competition. So this will be second fastest from the preliminary from that time trial versus 15th fastest, Spain versus Canada. And the faster of these two in the preliminary as well, it was Spain. And the Canadians down in 15th place overall.
Yeah, so gearing up, you can see just how much of a distance they have to run. Later on, we'll see the tide back in, and it'll be a much shorter run for athletes. But at the moment, it is quite a bit of a run here now. So it is going to be for Canada, Rachel Nicolades, and for Spain, Zara Nito Heinen making that run evenly matched. Does look like Spain are gone. They have 3 strokes pulled here. Canada just struggling now. Strokes person there didn't have her oars set as they took off, struggling to get into time here. Yeah, Canada just not getting into the rhythm here now. Just starting to take off now as Spain are already at that first marker.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate series of waves there for Rachel Nicolades to try and contend with her oars, with her blades. You could see that she was really struggling to get them into rhythm, into her hands, and to be joined by partner Ella Rose Duval, but not struggling whatsoever. Spain's Zaira Nieto Henin and Maria Angeles Macian Martinez, who push on towards the turning point. They've already navigated around that second slalom buoy, and they've got to sweep back round to the right hand side of this turning point. And the thing to watch on this second lane, like we've discussed many times before, is just whether they can get themselves back round and straight towards the beach. They've gone well past that turning point, Niamh. Actually, they've created a lot of extra distance for themselves to manage, and could Canada try and catch up here if they can get this handbrake turn right?
Yes, and Spain did not pull enough strokes to get out straight, because Spain are gone right over into lane 1 over. So now they are gone into Canada's lane. They're going to realise what's happened, and we're going to see them correcting themselves now. But with that swell, to come across that swell is very, very difficult. So they're going to have to do it here now. They've gone right over into Canada's lane. Canada have gone wide as well, but they're still on course. Spain adding so many metres to themselves here now to get back on course.
Well, do you know what, Niamh? I could hear the whistling from the boat handlers for Spain. It was a really loud, piercing whistle, and maybe that they've trained. Their coach has said, look, Laura Salmerón Banos, the Spanish coach, has gone, look, if you can hear us whistling, it means you really need to start pulling round. That's a sort of break glass in case of emergency tactic to get them back onto station, and it's worked. They've managed to pull all the way back round. That would have been difficult to do, like you say, across the swell, but they are now pushing on towards the beach. But Canada have closed up.
Canada absolutely have. They've tried to take advantage of what was happening behind them, but Spain had done enough. They had enough of a lead from the start. You know, they had that better start right from the first second, and here they come sprinting up the beach. Well done there to Canada there. We saw Ella Rose Duval last year in the solo. Here she is in the double. Unfortunate to get through to the next round, but well done there to Spain. Taking advantage, and that's something, that's a mistake they've made, going over into the other lane. That's something they'll surely not make again. You learn from these mistakes.
And they've got a bit of time now, Niamh. The round of 16 takes place in the morning. By the time this afternoon rolls around, they are back to back, quarter-final to semi-final to final. They don't have too much time to watch, to debrief, to evaluate their performance like they will now. So this is the opportunity. You can make mistakes, or you can maybe not quite execute the perfect race in this round of 16 and still have that time to watch the playback, watch the replay. They'll probably be watching our coverage in between now and their quarter-final to try and put that right. Now, Cyprus and Ukraine go head-to-head in this round 3 of the Coastal Junior Women's Double Sculls, and it's Cyprus on the left-hand side of the picture. They've opted for lane 2. Ukraine on the right, opting for lane 1.
What I've been noticing from all the Ukraine crews is their technique. They're sitting up very, very tall at the finish. We saw it in the quad yesterday. We saw it in the races this morning, the mixed double. And I'm interested to see if it's just a technique that they're all using across the board. There's no big lie back. Oh,
that
Cyprus.
was a huge skying of the boat, flying through the air. Cyprus getting caught on a big old wave before they headed out to sea. We're going to see more and more of that through today. We heard from Gwyn this morning, the wind swinging round, and Ukraine being pulled up and down with the swell of the water. And yeah, much more of that to look forward to this afternoon. So do stay tuned, because that's the kind of action we're expecting here in Genoa on the San Lazzaro beach. But Cyprus, they continue to press on. It's not shaken them. I guess you can't be shaken by that kind of wave if you're into beach sprint rowing, Niamh, can you?
You cannot. No, that was pretty mild compared to what we've seen over the years. But she was lucky, because the way that she went in the air, that would have been the prime position for her, for the seat to come off, or her to come off the seat. But so that it recovered well here now.
Commentators curse, because that was Ukraine coming off the seat there. Yevhenia Ilenko was just brought to a standstill there in the stroke seat of the Ukrainian crew on the left-hand side of your picture. They will go down in a deficit to that turning point behind Cyprus, who reach it first. But you can see here both have gone wide, so opportunity all around here. What can Cyprus do? They're going to keep rowing here on a bit of an angle. They're going to need to keep pulling round on that starboard side blade to get them back in towards the beach in a straight line. And Niamh, I think they've managed to now correct and get on course.
Yeah, they did a really nice turn there, Cyprus. They pulled that extra stroke, and that means they're coming in beautifully nice and tight to their lane. Ukraine going wide now, heading for that exclusion zone once again. So they started pulling too early, I would say. They didn't take that extra stroke around. Now, I was talking about the technique from the Ukraine crews, and these are much more typical of what we would see in the coast rowers. They're bit more of a lie back. They're not sitting up as tall as I've seen yesterday and this morning here now, but they've got themselves back on course here now. But Cyprus just ahead here. Cyprus look to have done enough at this stage, but this is the point where things can change, because this is where the real swells are starting.
Well, I can see Cyprus's bows well out of the water here. They were just lifted up by a wave, but here comes Ukraine. They've caught a great wave here. I think we're going to see a surge of speed from them in just a moment's time. Maybe Cyprus have done the same thing, but they are catching up with every single stroke.
Now Cyprus have to be careful, because they were starting to come in sideways, and that's not what you want to do on this beach. Now Ukraine are being thrown slightly. Tumble from Cyprus. Will this open it up for Ukraine? They are both on the beach. Here they come. It is Cyprus. It is Ukraine. Who is going to get it? Looks like Ukraine are even faster.
Hugely fast sprint from Ukraine. It sees a last-minute overturn. Cyprus slamming fists onto the stones in frustration, and quite rightly so, because for Evgenia Maria Policarpou, that was just heartbreaking in the final moment. That beach sprint from Lyubov Sardarenkova of Ukraine was just stunning. Like one of the runs of the day.
Absolutely.
One of the runs of the day.
She just did not slow down. We're seeing so many people struggle on that run, just because it's so hard after getting out of the boat. But she did that beautifully. That just goes to show she has trained for this. You know, a lot of people are going on the ergs, on the rowing machines. They're rowing 500 meters and getting off and running, and that's what you need to do both on land and on water.
Well, one team I think that I know will have practiced that time and time again. We've got the United States of America now. Left-hand sided picture featuring the newly crowned World Beach Sprint Finals champion, Annalisa Hall. And she's been joined by Annalie Duncombe, who's now taking this sprint in the stroke seat for the United States. Latvia on screen here now. This is Tina Jakobon and Eva and Evelina Burkane. But they're going to be really up against it here. The USA are away and rocking and rolling with these waves. But a little look across there from the bow seat, Eva Burkane of Latvia, to see that they're still in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Latvia who got the first few strokes, pulled in there ahead of USA, but USA right up along with them here. Now USA taking it a bit steadier with their stroke rate. Super pairing. These two have rowed together many times over the years, and as you said, newly crowned champion of our Coastal Junior Women's Solo yesterday, Annalise Hall, and Annalie Duncombe as well has raced this category last year. Both of them have, you know, they've so much experience together. They've been on the Italian waters the last few weeks training for this, and that experience is showing. But Latvia here, really impressive. There was about 14 seconds between them in the time trials, but Latvia are staying right up with USA, and in fact it's Latvia who are turning their bow in first into the turn ahead of USA.
This is a big race here on the cards in this fourth of the knockout rounds. The USA were fourth in the preliminary on Friday, so this would be a real upset if Latvia, who were all the way back in 13th, could push them on. But we've seen strange things happen. A great race in that previous round saw Cyprus, who were third in the preliminary, get knocked out by a fingernail. So Latvia might feel confidence, they might feel a little bit of hope and encouragement as they go up against the USA, but the USA have turned this back around. They're back up in front and they're riding one of these smaller bits of swell coming in that's just going to be giving them a little bit of free speed.
Absolutely, yeah. These are two rowers who are well experienced with using these conditions to their advantage. We saw how Annalise changed up her technique yesterday to suit the conditions that were there. Now they're going for a bit more of a lie back here. Keeping it nice and short at the catch, but here they are flying in. Boat handlers are still directing them here now. Latvia doing all they can to use those waves. USA are up on one now. The bows out of the water. They're flying in. Boat handlers moving out of the way here now. So it's going to be up to champion Annalise Hall now. Oh, tumble from Annalise, but she is up. Annalie is tumbling out of the boat as well, but Annalise is off. She's taking the sunglasses off so she can see, and she is sprinting up that beach. That was lucky. We can see those breakers really making a difference now.
Yeah, Latvia did exactly the same thing as the United States. They came in sideways to the beach, the boat almost running over Eva Burkane there, who's doing the sprint for them. And I think that you're right, Neve, we're only going to see more and more of that this morning. That impacting both crews there equally, and the crews that are in the later rounds of competition and in our next events, the men's and women's solos, will be watching this keenly to understand what the dangers may be, what the challenges may be coming into the beach.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things. We saw it happening in nearly every race last year. The breakers were a little bit different, and conditions were different, but what we saw is boats turning sideways, you know, in pretty much every single race, and that's not a place you want to be. That's the place where you will potentially capsize, you know, and it could be race over for you. So that sideways, and we'll see it here. I just remember the footage from Wales. We were there. Chris Back in the USA, from USA in the men's solo, how well he was able to do that and keep his boat straight when everyone else was being thrown sideways and capsizing. It was incredible. So USA have that experience in these conditions, and we're seeing it here again.
Well, we'll see Chris Back a little bit later on in that men's solo race, but for now we've got round 5 of the junior women's double sculls, and here go France, the Irazaki twins there in lane number 2. They're going up against Austria's Marlene Kür and Ina Taufik of Austria, and wow, the undulating waters are getting even more severe here out in the port of Genoa. This is the kind of conditions I think we were expecting yesterday that never quite materialised, but it is really bumpy now. You can see even on this outward leg, going into the swell, into the waves, both crews having to manage this well to stay on course.
Absolutely, yeah, they're doing really well as, you know, the swells are going further and further out the course. So we're seeing much more challenging conditions here now. France doing really well, boat speed nice and high, but Austria matching them here now. About 13 seconds separating these two. It was France who were the quicker out of these two crews in the time trial. We can see them looking over the shoulders there, just making sure they are on course, going with a bit of a wider route here now into that turning point. That means they will probably try and come out nice and narrow.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want, to be able to come out of this nice and narrow to get yourself back onto a pin straight line back towards the beach. Any diagonals will be adding meters, and they've done that very well actually. I think, Neve, they're right back on track here. but some of it is uncontrollable. You know, you've got to control the controllables, get yourself as much back on track as possible. And we have even seen people in lane 2 overcompensating, knowing that the push from the headland will take them in. Oh, here, actually, I think I've spoken too soon. France drifting all the way over now towards lane number 1. And they're really going to have to overcorrect. I think overcorrection is the best technique here, Niamh.
It is, it has to be. And this French crew, they raced last year in this category. They made it to the semi-final and did not finish that race. They were one of the ones that fell victim to the conditions. So here they are looking to get back into the semi-finals and hopefully do one better. And that seems to be exactly what they're doing here now. We can see them up on that surge. They're making a go of it here now. There's another one coming in behind their stern, trying their best to catch it, but look at the difference here of the size of these surges compared to earlier. Here they come, it is France in.
France into the beach, and a great run here by Maida Irazaki, joined by her sister Amaya, who did the run out, but safely down and through. I think they're going to look back at that footage and have to have a look at that run back in and keeping that tight to their line. But here come Austria. It will be the last time they run in this particular category, the junior women's double sculls. But good performances all round here.
Yeah, and another set of twins there, the French twins. I'm not sure, is that an advantage or disadvantage, do you think, Camilla? Rowing, training, doing everything with your sibling?
I feel like it will have its advantages for certain, right? And especially when it comes to things like rowing, where there's gearing and that ability to be in tandem and in sync, which matters a lot, and I think has a lot more difference perhaps in flat water rowing, right? Because here in coastal rowing, you were saying yesterday that some of the partnerships and great partnerships we see in the double sculls actually are quite different, because it's not so much about rowing in tandem but being able to be agile, like we heard from Gwyn, and roll with those conditions. And if you're a quick, fast sprinter, actually, you know, rowing in tandem with your partner is only a small part of navigating these conditions. And you know, families are all very different, aren't they? So it depends how well you get on with your sibling. But here goes the next round. Already we are on to round 6 in this women's double sculls of the round of 16, and it is Ireland here going up against Portugal.
Yeah, great run there from Ireland. We had Elsie Simmons running down, jumping into that stroke seat. She is joined by Roisin Manning. They're off to a lovely start here. Portugal probably have a little bit more swells here at the moment. It was Rita Tigalero in the stroke seat joining Lara Fossatino. Both crews now around that first marker. I would say advantage here to Ireland ever so slightly. In the time trials, it was Portugal who were about 10 seconds quicker than Ireland, but again put them up head to head. But Ireland now just over navigating here out to that second marker. Not sure if that was a call from the boat handlers or whether that was the wind pushing them there now, but Ireland going really wide around that second marker. That's going to cost them very important meters now as they head down towards that turning marker. That has allowed Portugal now to get right up into it. Bit of a wash there, nasty water that they're both going through at the moment. But look at this, Portugal here now staying very narrow in as they come into that turning point, but Ireland right up there as well. There is still so much time and enough water and enough beach to go in this race that this could go either way. This is so tight. So let's see, it is Portugal who are around. Ireland just a bit slower on that turn and going a little bit wide. Portugal here taking a lovely course. They took that extra second to get themselves nice and straight here. We're seeing lovely shots here. Ireland closest to us on the screen here. 2 rowers from Passage West Rowing Club. I know they have a lot of support down in Cork at home, and yes, they are coming past that second marker boy, but it is Portugal now who are leading this out. There is still a lot of those swells to come, so let's see who can use those best. But at the moment, Ireland look to have a better line coming into the beach. Portugal seem to be kind of moving a little bit left and right slightly, but Portugal's now bow is out of the water. That means they're going to be slowing their speed now, and yes, being thrown sideways. Is this going to allow Ireland now to come back into this? Portugal, unfortunately, they're just getting caught out by that bit of a sideways swell here, but Portugal do have a lovely surge here now that they are using. They are flying into the beach here now, so it's Portugal coming in, Ireland not too far behind.
Yeah, Ireland not too far behind indeed. Not too far for them to come in, but I think this is all wrapped up here now for Portugal, who take the win there in that round 5 of the women's double sculls. Only 3 more rounds of competition to go in this opening round of 16.
So next up we have the next knockout. This time it is Italy and Great Britain. Now these two nations met each other in the A final last year. Different rowers, but this is going to be one that came down to it. It was Great Britain that took the win last year, but this is going to be very, very close. There was a 1.5 seconds separating these two crews in the time trials on Friday.
Yeah, Great Britain medaling in this event last year, but this time around, like you say, Niamh, 2 different athletes contending, and the Italians with that home advantage. And as we get closer to the pinch point here from the preliminary results, just that second that they'll both know this is a tough one, and when that pressure is on, more mistakes can be made. Great Britain taking a look over their shoulders there. Caitlin Lockie in the bow seat, Lucy Whiteley in the stroke seat, and they're going up against Chiara Tamborino in the stroke seat for Italy, who ran down into that boat, and Alessandra Corranta in the bow seat there, doing the steering, keeping an eye over the shoulder, and you can see there she's just trying to manage their course as they try and get to the left-hand side of this next slalom buoy.
Yeah, Great Britain here much faster than Italy at the moment. And sorry, I was mistaken. It was Italy took the gold medal in this category last year. Great Britain with the silver, but completely new rowers this year. Oh, Italy just getting caught up on that marker buoy. You do not want to get caught with your blade or your shaft on that. Ideally, you want to be hitting the rigger, have it right up next to your boat so that it doesn't slow the speed here now. Both crews now making their approach to that buoy. It looks like it is advantage Italy at the moment. They're in their round, taking a wide route into it. Let's see if they come narrow out of it. Doesn't look like it. Looks like the bow is heading over, but they're just correcting themselves now, taking those extra few strokes. Great Britain much quicker around the turn, much straighter coming out of it.
Yeah, Great Britain now with the advantage coming out of that turning point buoy, but Italy, oh, a disaster. A boat stopping crab there for the stroke seat. Chiara Tamborino of Italy. Blade went back behind her head, almost knocked her out, in fact. That would have been quite the stopper. There's a huge amount of force once you get that caught in the water, and that would have brought the boat to a screaming halt, especially with the waves pushing it backwards as well. But they've done really well here to recover, Niamh.
Absolutely, some recovery, but it has allowed Great Britain to kind of push up into it. They're still a little bit further behind, but, you know, lots of things can change in these later stages of this race. Here they come. They're into the surging water. Let's see who can take big advantage of this now.
Yeah, who's going to take the advantage of these pushing swells? Great Britain have actually lowered the rate to try and get themselves onto this next bit of surging water. I think they've managed to catch that well. And here comes the bow seat now. Caitlin Lockie, who will be pointed towards her flag. She's sent diagonally around in that triangular fashion to get back towards the buzzer. Italy will be on the beach at the same time, so you can just see how close that is. Maybe a little bit more distance than we saw in the preliminary. As you mentioned, Niamh, that second has grown now to almost 5 seconds, and I think not helped by that huge crab that we saw the Italian stroke woman Tamborino catch on that leg back. We did talk about the pressure, didn't we? You know, when you know that it was that close through the time trial, it puts that little bit of added pressure.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, you never know what's going to happen when you go head to head, but when you know it's so close, you know you're going to just have to race for your life out there. That is Italy, who won this category yesterday out of the finals, out of the competition here. Great Britain making their way into that quarter-final. Now, final knockout in the junior women's double sculls. This time it is Turkey and Peru.
Well, if Great Britain and Italy were just 1 second separated, these two will be even closer, Niamh. I'm sure you've Had a quick look at the preliminary results.
Yes, 8th and 9th position, Peru 2:41.51 and Turkey 2:41.54. So
wow.
that's probably the closest.
0.02.
Yep. Crazy.
Crazy close for the preliminary for this. Oh!
Oh!
My word, that was a huge mistake there from Turkey, who went flying backwards. I do feel sorry there for Melek Aktepe, who's in the stroke seat, just got absolutely flattened by the blade getting caught there. Her feet were out of the shoes, which meant that she went flying backwards. And even I did talk a little bit about that yesterday, making sure your feet are nice and secure in those shoes, because that is the result of what happens if they're not.
That is the result. Yes, you know, the bow person is sitting in with about a minute to go, so they have time to tighten their shoes, whereas the strokes person is jumping in and pretty much going without tightening their shoes. A lot of them will aim to do that.
And she's off the seat now, Niamh. That little sort of flustered start has meant that she'd focused on getting herself back into the shoes and back into the boat, but through that she's actually missed the seat now and she's not able to take full strokes.
Yeah, and they just got caught up on that second marker now as well. That's taken the speed right out of them here. It's so unfortunate to have a start like that and to have to row the race like this.
You can see it here from this side-on shot in the stroke seat there for Turkey, Melek Aktepe, who is not able to slide up and down at all. She's using as much of her leg bend as she can, but I wonder if she'll use this turning point here to try and get back onto her seat as the boat slows down. I think it could be to her advantage, just taking a couple of seconds, Niamh, to sit, take stock, try and get back onto her seat, because then that will yield the return in full strokes in this inbound leg.
Absolutely. Some people think they just have to keep rowing and keep rowing and keep rowing, whereas if you took that second, it's the same with the entries. If you take that split second, make sure you're set, it can make all the difference. But you can see just the struggle here trying to get those full strokes.
Yeah, they've chosen not to do that. They've chosen to keep rowing, which again has its advantages. It means that the bow person can keep in time, keep going. But you can see here, look, the difference between them and Peru, who are now on screen, who are taking those nice long strokes, using their full leg drive, which I think a lot of people who have never watched rowing before get mistaken that this is a very arms-driven sport. It really isn't. This is more about that leg drive, one of the strongest muscles in the body, and we want to use those to our advantage, like a big old squat jump these guys are doing out there on the water. So not having use of legs like the stroke seat here at Tepe, that's really going to be affecting that ability to move the boat. Joined by Jagmar Pala, who will be struggling alongside. Both athletes out of the boat here for the crew from Peru. That is a real crash landing onto the beach for them, but they will have a bit of time here because of that problem that Turkey had to regather themselves and get themselves back over the line. So it will be a win there for Peru. Turkey, that was a real battle of a sort of myriad of problems for them. That was really not the best of races. Unfortunate, given they were so close on paper, Niamh.
Yes, they were, but to be only 8 seconds down with just, you know, one of the rowers just using pretty much upper body, you know, that was pretty good. You know, they decided to go and keep in the race and keep with it. As you said, they could have taken those few seconds and gotten the seat back, or herself back on the seat, but they chose not to do that, but well done for finishing out the race. So here are results of the Coastal Junior Women's Double Sculls. So going through, we have New Zealand, we have Spain, we have Ukraine, USA, and then we have France, we have Portugal, Great Britain, and then finally we had Peru.
We've seen some great racing here in that women's doubles, and the swell picking up and the waves picking up is just meaning that we're getting a lot of mistakes rising to the surface, where these doubles are getting caught off guard by big swells, but also that change in temperament of the water in those final few strokes, pushing a lot more boats sideways, which is what we saw last year, as Niamh was saying, in Barletta, and also in Saundersfoot back in Wales as well at those beach sprint finals. It's as the waves crash into the beach, it gets a lot more difficult. But not having a difficult time at all. Great Britain, who have managed to press through into the next round of competition, into the quarterfinals. We're catching up with them now down on the beach with Gemma.
I'm here now with Lucy and Caitlin representing Great Britain. They've just got through to the quarterfinals. Congratulations. It's so interesting finding out about different athletes' journeys into coastal rowing and particularly beach sprints as well. So Lucy, just quickly, I understand that you only started beach sprints, was it last summer?
This summer.
This summer, even sooner.
Yeah, about midsummer I did a camp at Fishguard, Wales, and they sort of just taught me everything I needed to know. And then it was just before the trials to qualify for this double. So perfect timing, really.
And how are you finding the transition from classic rowing into beach sprints?
It's definitely different. It's a whole different type of rowing. It's not just pull as hard as you can the whole way. You've got to think about where the waves are, where the steering is, and all that.
Brilliant. And I also understand, Caitlin, that actually you two didn't know each other prior to the camp. Is that correct? So you all know you had like a 10 days training camp?
Yeah, we had a 10 days training camp to get to know each other and learn how we row. So.
And was it just about learning how you row, improving on technique, or was there emphasis put on team bonding and working together?
It's a really big part of like GB that the team is a big team, whether it's in your category or just for.
And I'm going to ask you about lane choice because we have been seeing the lane that you chose favoured a lot. What went into that choice ahead of racing?
Yeah, so I think we were sort of looking at the wind conditions, thought they were nicer on that side, and then also we were looking at the rocks and the red buoys, and it was sort of, we decided we didn't want to try and battle with those, so to pick sort of the cleaner lane.
And you must have a little bit of a buzz going into today. Obviously, Great Britain already a gold medal under their belts. So did you have a bit of a pep talk from the rest of the team?
I mean, we have dinners together, but that's about it. Just want to follow on getting the medals. So.
Absolutely, you need to stay focused and race your race. Well, look, I won't hold you up any longer. Congratulations for getting through to the quarterfinals. Can't wait to see you in action again a little bit later on. And talking of action, next up, I believe we've got the men's solos. So very much looking forward to seeing what happens there.
Thanks so much, Gemma. And we are also looking forward in the commentary box to seeing the next round of competition, the men's solo. This is one of the 3 events that we're going to see in the Los Angeles Olympics in 4 years' time. So when beach sprint rowing was proposed as a category of rowing, the solos were 2 of the events, 2 of the disciplines that have been engaged, as well as the mixed double. So yeah, lots of athletes that I think we'll see later on in the next 4 years trying to go for qualification for an Olympic Games. But here's some of the highlights from this morning's racing. We've seen all these junior double sculls, and very mature racing given the conditions are the way they are.
Yeah, we saw some, I suppose, the mistakes that happened there, the first few shots, the oars, the blades, the handles moving out of hands, you know, the sideways action coming into the beach. So we're seeing more, I wouldn't call them mistakes, but this is what the conditions bring with them. So it's just about how the athlete can adapt to what is happening to them at the time. So many close races here today in the knockout round. So that is a sure sign that the later rounds are going to be very, very exciting. Here we have, you know, that do you jump out too early or not? You can see Ukraine there were jumping into the water, maybe a stroke or so too early. But yeah, I think with this now, everyone that gets through is going to be looking back on their race. You know, their coach and team manager is going to be looking at maybe what went well, what went wrong. You know, that we saw a lot of kind of tricky navigations happening out there, people going to other lanes. So that's something that I think those conversations are going to happen in the next few hours. And these athletes, you know, they have a little bit of a break now. So this is the time to have that chat, see how they can make things better, see how they can get faster on the beach and on the water.
Now, we're moving from these crew boats, the doubles, we've seen doubles all morning, into now solos, Niamh, which, you know, you've rowed solos before quite a lot in your coastal rowing career. What are the differences now that we need to look out for given the increasing conditions and the sort of reduction of boat size?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course you only have one rower, which means you only have one runner. So these athletes have to run both down the beach and up the beach here now. So that's added. You know, you all just look at the highlights here. So unfortunate there. But yes, that adds a different element, because obviously in the crew boats only one person is running down and the opposite person is running up. Same in the quads, it's the cox running down and the bow person running up. But in the solos, of course, you have to run down, you have to row your race, and then you have to get out and run again. So that's you know, extra. It adds an extra demand on your body.
You're right. This is the only event where you have to do both the outwards run and the return run here. We've got both the men's and women's solos now on the roster. We're going to see the reigning beach sprint, the beach sprint champion from 2022 coming up, Chris Back from the USA. He is back again and will be contending against some really stiff competition. We've also got Olympic gold medalist Leni van Lierop of the Netherlands in round number 2 as well. And then we do see a returning champion in the women's solo too, going off in an hour's time or so. Janneke van der Molen of the Netherlands will also face Olympic champion Emma Twigg, who's been victorious here before in Saundersfoot, Wales. So that's all to come. And there is the running order for this men's solo event. Chris Back in round number 1, having won that time trial. Leni van Lierop, that Olympic champion, fresh from Paris, having won out in the men's quadruple sculls for the Netherlands there. And still plenty of names that we're used to seeing littering this round of 16. Going to be some tough knockouts to face in this competition. But Neve, you know, 2 more events here before we break for lunch, and I think, given what we've seen this morning, even more pick-up in conditions.
Absolutely, yes, definitely pick up in conditions, bigger breakers, bigger swell, and of course these smaller boats are going to start to feel that a lot more. They're a lot lighter, there's going to be a lot more movement. The boat handlers are going to come into play a lot more here as they you know, hold the boat in position and then give them that really important push off. But again, it's so important that they push off nice and even either side, and making sure the bow is heading straight down the course, because you do not want to be off your navigation from those first few strokes. So yeah, we're into the final minute of the starters orders. We have in lane 1 Czechia, we have Jan Fleisner, and then USA, you mentioned him, Christopher Back here, world champion back in Wales in 2022. I mentioned him earlier, and his style of rowing was phenomenal. So he's here again representing USA in the solo. He was sick last year, got food poisoning. He made it to the quarterfinals but was knocked out. That was a surprise for the competition. It opened it right up because pretty much everyone thought he would be up on the podium, but he's here back to redeem himself this year, and big run here from Chris, but Jan right up with him here now. Chris starting to pull his first few strokes.
Yeah, Chris Back, I remember from that time in Saundersfoot, Wales, which is where he was on top of the world at this beach sprint finals. The conditions were 10 times more choppy than this, Steve. They were really biblical that we saw on the beach in Saundersfoot in the UK. So this will be a walk in the park in comparison. But as we get those sort of greater swells, Chris Back is the man that you mentioned has a lot of experience in that field. But Jan Fleisner keeping with him here for Czechia. In the opening stage, this slalom going very well for the Czech athlete. But Chris Back gets the measure, takes a quick look across. And I think the other thing to note here, Neve, is that although they'll be going for a time, I think Back will be conscious to just keep his cool and keep that energy for the later rounds of knockout.
Absolutely, but it doesn't look like he can ease off much here at all. He may have thought he would have been much further ahead here now, because he was first in the time trial compared to Fleisner's 16th. And look at this on the turn. USA have gone wide. That has allowed this competition to completely open up.
Yeah, this is not the result we'd be expecting to see at this halfway point. Flipping the script here, Jan Fleisner taking on the giant of Chris Back, who his name rings throughout these beach sprint finals. He has just been ever present in this competition for some time, and he is coming right back into this. But Fleisner is giving all he can here. Both courses from both athletes looking pretty good here. Czechia keeping nice and tight to those slides. Ireland boys. You can see off to the left there, the Danger Boys, where those rocks are. Chris Back now starting to move back into the lead.
Yes, Chris Back is moving right back. He's after actually lengthening his stroke with a big long lie back, trying to keep the blades in the water for as long as possible here. It has worked because he's put himself back into the lead here now, but I'm not sure he would have assumed that this race would be so tight. We still have the exit, the dismount and the run. It is Chris Back getting to that beach first, but Jan flies out right there. Chris is down on the ground.
Chris Back face plants the sand. Fleissner's seen this as an opportunity here to really press on. Back does have enough in hand, but my word, the world champion from 2022 might be starting to think that this 2024 campaign is a bit up in the air, given that that was meant to be against the slowest person from the preliminaries. I'm not sure that Chris Back had enough there. If that had been tighter competition, challenging, very challenging, very interesting that in that opening round it was that close.
I think the only advantage he had there was that Jan took a tumble out of his boat as well and stopped him. If that hadn't happened, he would have been right up there hitting that buzzer alongside Chris, I think.
But you know what, Niamh? I think this is very indicative of how this competition has developed over the last 5 years. When we see this featuring in the Olympic Games in 4 years' time, there are no easy races, right? When it comes to the Olympics, every race is going to be that close. It's only short. And speaking of close, we've now got one of the names of the championships, Adrian Miramon-Quiroga, who was last year's champion, the reigning beach sprint finals champion in the men's solo, going up against a reigning Olympic champion.
Yeah, this is going to be such an incredible race. Adrian is someone who has been there right from the start. He won back in 2019, the first ever beach sprint finals in China. He came back last year. Like we know, he is used to every sort of conditions. He is, you know, a professional coastal rower in Spain in those massive waves, those massive conditions, in those big boats where you have over 20 people in them. So he's well used to it. And look at his sprint. He is going for it. He knows that he has to take advantage of every part of this race.
And he really will take advantage. Look at that little weight there from Miramon-Quiroga. That is the sign of someone who is confident in their ability to have that patience just to sit, wait for that wave to crash over the boat before embarking on the sprint. Now, he is going up against somebody who is not only, like I say, a reigning Olympic champion on the flat water courses, but also a reigning European champion in the single scull. So we know that Lely is not only an accomplished crew boat rower on flat water, but he knows what it takes here to succeed by yourself, which is a completely different mindset and mentality too.
Absolutely, and maybe to go in, you know, as European champion, but to be in this knockout up against the reigning world champion, that obviously would have brought a bit of a mental weight to this race as well. But he is right up in there as well. As we saw in the last race, you know, it comes down to the last second. You know, every part of this race is important. So just because he is behind right now does not mean anything. But Adrian now is in. He is an expert at these turns, you know, hugging that boy, coming out a little bit wider than what I thought he would, but I'm sure he will correct himself very, very soon. He is heading over for lane 1, I will say.
Yeah, he is. But I think that, Niamh, this is a really good demonstration, right, of where this sport is heading. We're going to see a lot more flat water Olympians making that transition, making that change over to this coastal discipline. And here is someone who has only specialised in coastal for the last few years, a two-time world champion in this event, who is leading out somebody who has achieved the highest feat in their own flat water discipline. But look at this, Miramon-Quiroga adjusting as much as possible to come back in towards the beach. And he's got a wave right up behind his stern.
Yeah, and it just goes to show someone with so much experience to be a double world champion in this from over the years, to have gone wrong out there and gone so wide. I assume he probably said, if I correct myself too early, I'm going to slow the speed. So he decided to continue with that wide arc around just to keep that speed up in the boat. But here he is, final few strokes for Adrian Miramon-Quiroga. He is out, making sure the boat is up on the beach. Here he comes, taking it a little bit easier. I know he definitely has a bigger sprint in him for later on, but nice finish and probably an expected result here.
Yeah, I think so. Miramon-Quiroga will make light work here of Van Lierop, who has just, as I say, fresh off the plane from Paris 2024, having been stood atop the podium as an Olympic champion, is nowhere here in this round of 16 against a reigning world champion. And if you're watching at home and you are a flat water rower that's been finding success, this is what it takes to win a round of 16 here at Genoa at the World Beach Sprint Finals. You need to have really practiced quite a lot and train quite a lot specifically for this discipline.
Yeah, it's not as easy as just sitting into the boat and going for it. You know, there's so much, and more people are spending so much time on the entries and exits because they're the parts of the race that really catch people. And there's different techniques to it, and people go for different ways of getting in and out. We saw it yesterday. People's Republic of China had a very interesting way of getting out, in particular, of the boat in the solos, which we haven't seen. So I think we're going to actually see that coming up shortly. We'll have China coming up very soon in the knockouts, but this time it is all about Germany and Croatia. So on the left-hand side of our screen here, Franz Werner of Germany, and then we have Michal Gerotto of Croatia.
Yeah, the German was the faster in the time trial in the preliminary on Friday. So let's see how that works out here in the side-by-side. You can see that he is just taking his time. That's what we've seen from some of the best of these solo rowers, just to get themselves set and ready. But brilliant start also from Croatia, very punchy with those opening strokes.
Yeah, he had a bit he had a bit of a challenge at the start. The bow went right up into the sky there, just getting caught on a wave. But again, similar to the last round, he took his time getting going, and he's off to a nice start here now. So evenly matched as they head down towards that second marker. This is a new rower for Germany. Usually we're used to seeing Karl Schlues here in the men's solo category, but new rower, and they are challenging that bit of a swell out there as they go around that second marker. Both rowers staying nice and wide, taking that oar length distance. Oh, I was wrong. Croatia went right up into it, hitting it in the rigger. Didn't slow them down, but it is Germany now leading Croatia into that turning buoy.
Well, the Croatian here, Gerotto, he's very keen to become one of the favourites in beach sprint rowing, keen to continue on this path, and he's keeping tabs here with Germany outside of rowing, studying for a PhD, and so an academic as well as a rower. Germany, look at that sort of turn of speed on the approach back to the beach there, Niamh. That was sort of an acceleration out of the corner, much like you see in F1. You know, you slow down for the corner and then accelerate out of it. That's exactly what Franz Werner has managed to achieve there.
Yeah, Croatia had the much tighter turn there, did really well, but did slow the speed compared to Germany. So at the moment, it is still Germany with the lead. Just getting, you can see how the boat is kind of sitting sideways on the water. I can certainly see from my window here, maybe not coming across on the drone shots here, but Germany, you know, just with the swell, it's not straight on, it's a little bit sideways here, so it is putting the boats off balance slightly. But it is Germany surging towards the beach now. Bit of a swell, big swell behind him. Let's see if he can use it. It is Germany from Croatia.
Yeah, he was just in a bit of a trough there, Werner, but he's managed to slow down enough to get this huge surge into the beach. That's massive, 16.2 kilometers an hour. That was massive from Franz Werner. Really, really well read by him in terms of that wave coming into the beach. That just absolutely kicked him into gear to get a great advantage coming into the run.
Yeah, we saw there how tricky with that slope into the beach. The bow got right caught up into the sand while the rest of the boat was still in the water, and he had to jump into a bit of a deeper water and run out of it. So because the beach is not flat here, there is that big gradient, that big slope. It is meaning those bows are just crashing into the beach, and they are having to jump out a little early.
Well, a few more rounds still here. We're not even halfway yet in this round of 16 for the coastal men's solos. But next athletes lining up, getting ready. Peru and Uruguay, the Battle of South America we've got now. A South American showdown ready to go. And we've got on your right Uruguay, on the left Peru. And different approaches here to getting focused and ready and getting internal, ready to take on this course.
Yeah, so we can see here boat handlers moving the boats into the water with 1 minute to go. The boats can sit in the water, and the boat handlers, we saw them yesterday kind of holding the bow out of the water, whereas this time, particularly with Peru, they're holding the bow into the water. They're keeping the stern up nice and high here now. So the boat may get a bit flooded with water, but of course these boats are self-bailing, so that'll come out again as soon as they start rowing. But yeah, because of that slope, they're having to stay quite shallow in the water and keep the fin out of it here. But nice even run here from Peru and Uruguay.
Yeah, great start from both here, and that's Uruguay on the screen. Marcos Sarauta is on and away. Peru, well, that's Alvaro Torres Masias that gets underway here in this event. Interesting to see you talk about the boat handlers, Niamh. Usually only 2 boat handlers allowed per crew. Because of the conditions we've had here in Genoa, the jury have decided that 3 more appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually 2, but all weekend we've had 3. I think with the quads on Friday, there was actually 4 allowed just because it was so tough. Now we can see Uruguay there going, again, we're hearing the whistles just because they're getting very tight to that, going the wrong side of that second marker. But both crews now, both boats are around and heading to that turning buoy. But yes, the boat handlers, it's a much even, or it's more even with 3 people, because you can have 2 boat handlers either side, 1 at the stern, and they give that push off, rather than 2 people who may be unmatched in power trying to give a push off, and that can keep the boats off balance.
That was a really slow approach there from the Uruguayan, who just managed to really take the speed off to get round that tight turn. Beautifully done there by Sarauta, who's now pushing on ahead, at least 1 boat length up on the Peruvian, who stopped rowing a couple of strokes ahead of the turn to try and do the same, match that little slow turn. But what's happening with the steering here, Niamh? It looks like he's going off course and allowing Peru to catch up.
Yeah, Uruguay going right over to the red buoys, the exclusion zone here. Now, that's what we're hearing, all the whistles out our window here now. That is not where you want to be going, just because you're adding more distance to yourself. Plus, there's rocks that you're going to be landing onto, so you definitely do not want to be doing that. So, yes, that has opened up the door completely for Peru now, who have gotten themselves right into this. Let's see him use the surge.
Look at this stroke rating here, Niamh. 48 strokes a minute from Uruguay, 46 strokes a minute from Peru. That's huge, huge numbers. We never see anything like that. And it's because they're trying to both catch the wave at the same time. This is equally matched here as we come in towards the surf. Who's going to nail this exit? Uruguay, just a little trip there onto the beach. Peru head back towards the flag. They both hit the flag identically at the same time. Who's going to have the last 10 steps? It's going to be, I think, Uruguay is down as our winner here, but we'll wait for that to be completely and utterly confirmed. I don't think the beach will know. There we go. I think Uruguay just very silently fist-pumping Marcos Sarauta. I think he knows now. Marcos Sarauta, the winner there by milliseconds. That was stunning stuff.
That was stunning stuff. So evenly matched. Peru got right back into this on the water. Uruguay were ahead there for quite a bit, and it came down to the sprint. So evenly matched. And you know, some people decide to jump, and we saw yesterday actually Spain almost, when they jumped for the buzzer, almost missed it and had to do an extra little jump while she was on the ground. So if you can propel yourself as much as you can on that jump to the buzzer, you're going to get there, and that's exactly what they did there. So well done. Next up, we're on to knockout number 5. This time it is Lithuania and Latvia.
Yeah, on the left-hand side of your picture, Zygmantas Galisanskis, and on the right-hand side of your picture, Christos Tomas Krumins, who takes on the Lithuanian, who is in a very solid sprinting stance, but almost too solid there, look, ready to go.
Yes, now he was 4th last year, just missing out on a medal, so he's back to redeem himself here, hoping to be up on the podium today. And I'm sure he'll be inspired by his the crew, the mixed double, who won gold yesterday from Lithuania, winning their first medal in beach sprints.
Yeah, it just goes to show you the step on in just a year. You know, it's a big portion of the time that we've been racing World Beach Sprint Rowing since 2019. You know, that's only 5 years. We've only had 4 competitions. So with every year that goes past, a huge percentage of training time and improvements to be made. So Lithuania here trying to keep that progress going. But on screen at the moment, Latvia digging those blades in pretty deep. It's tricky when you can't see the waves that are coming up behind you, Neve, to try and place those oars, place those blades in the right place.
Yeah, there was a lot of wobbling going on there because it's not a straight wind or straight swell behind you. It is coming quite sideways, so we saw just how wobbly it was there. And of course, if one side goes down, that blade is going to go down a bit deeper. That's not what you want to do, because that's when you're going to cause yourself a lot of difficulties. Quite evenly matched here now. Probably Lithuania just going to get to that turning buoy first ahead of Latvia. Let's see, Latvia staying nice and tight. Both of them doing really well on this turn, not being pushed past. I think they slowed down right enough. That was super turn by both of them. Lithuania maybe coming out a little bit wider, but Latvia right up alongside them now again.
Yeah, and if Latvia can stay there, it means that if Lithuania is drifting, he's going to be right in that collision path. But Lithuania adjusting well here. Galasanskis, who is trying to keep tabs here with Latvia. It's so evenly pitched here as we come past that second slalom buoy, heading towards the first slalom buoy. The boat handlers really screaming here, but you can see the boat speed now with Lithuania.
Yes, absolutely. He is using the surges, so much experience from the Lithuanian, and here he comes. He has a surge here. Can he use it? Latvia coming up alongside Lithuania. Slow down here in the trough of a wave. Here's another one coming. He's upping the rate, trying to use it, but Latvia fighting back with every stroke, but Lithuania now flying into the beach. He is on that wave. Perfectly timed for him because he got that final surge. He is out. Brilliant exit, brilliant dismount, and he's able to take it somewhat easy on his sprint up.
That was a fabulous dismount there from Zygomantis Galasanskis of Lithuania. Perfectly done. And we only saw that from the Chinese junior men's solo yesterday to that level. But Latvia, they'd have been, I think, instilled with some hope. At the midpoint of that race, they were quite evenly matched through the route home, but that final wave that Lithuania caught there just goes to show you the distance and the difference that can make to these races, to these knockout stages.
I think what the French young sculler said to us earlier in the interview about that extra bit of a swell, he's dead right, because it is helping those crews in at that lane 2, that right-hand lane, just come in that little bit quicker if they can use it. There doesn't seem to be as much over in lane 1 on the left-hand side. So he was definitely onto something earlier, and it's actually becoming more and more obvious as the water gets that little bit more challenging.
Yeah, and I think if you can handle it, even you can read that really well. Those crews that have been a little bit more in-depth with beach sprint rowing and coastal rowing for some time might feel that confidence that they're able to read those waves that little bit better than the flat water rowers, who might prefer lane 1, right? A little bit more simple, a little bit more straightforward, the run that little bit shorter. So yeah, the lane choices later on are going to be intriguing, to say the least. But next race already lining up now. Goncalo Delgado of Portugal going up against Alexis Fortier of France. And there goes the buzzer. Barely a time to wait here as we get underway. This bird's eye view of the entry into the boat. And in these solos, just that one athlete to keep everything stable, keep everything balanced, and with those boat handlers pushing off, as you say, Neve, it can be a lot to think about in those opening moments.
Absolutely, so much to think about, and particularly into the bit of a swell here as well. It can provide challenging conditions for the rower as they're being pushed, and then they're being pushed from the start, and then they're hitting a wave in their bow. Very evenly matched so far. They're coming into a bit of challenging water here now. We saw Alexis Fortier of France last year. He got knocked out in this round, the last 16, so he's hoping for a different fate this year. Both are around that first or that second marker now, coming across over to the right hand side to make their way around that turning buoy. Both of them keeping that rate up quite high. Look at France's speed though, up that little bit higher than Portugal right now.
Indeed, but right now I think is the optimum way to describe this, because as we all know, on the return leg, the conditions flip on their head. It's now all about being with the waves rather than to navigate the slalom, and that was an excellent turn there from Portugal, so crisp and tight to that turning point buoy, and brilliant for Goncalo Delgado, who extends that lead by a huge margin.
Yeah, they went in pretty much together, but he just took shorter, snappier strokes, and it got the bow around that little bit quicker, and he was able to get his boat up to full speed much quicker than the French sculler. But France have come right into it here now again. They're starting to approach that final marker buoy. Looking at the speeds here now, France are trying to use that extra bit of a swell that we spoke about. They're down at the trough at the moment, but starting to pick up here now again. So at the moment, it is Portugal from France, but this is neck and neck. Who is going to use this swell? France are going, they're upping the rate, they are going, but it looks like Portugal are going to get to that beach first.
Well, do you know what, Niamh? France have got that lane too, haven't they? So we'd expect this from them to surge back. That's the advantage. Almost disaster there for Portugal. Almost toppling over. A backward somersault was on the cards, but recovered well here. Delgado will indeed take the win and overturn the result from the preliminary, where France took home 10th. Portugal were 11th, so that was somewhat of a surprise here in this particular event. My apologies, France was 6th and Portugal were 11th, so a huge distance between these two on Friday that has been 180'd, and Delgado will be very, very pleased to have shunted out the Frenchman.
Yeah, and heartbreak for Forte, who went out in this round last year as well. He's just going to have to come back again next year and go for it and try and get his way through the quarters and the semis into the finals, but heartbreak for him.
Well, do you know what, Niamh? I was going to say learnings for next year, but every beach is different, every lane is different, every course,
day is different on the same course.
So yeah, it is the next year might not be the same. And we talked about dismounts and entries earlier. Here is the man that we were so impressed by, Yang Yuqi, who was yesterday's champion in the junior event. So the youngster now taking on the Italian here, Giovanni Ficara, who well, I think he's going to have to be pretty watertight with his entries and exits to match up to what we saw from the 18-year-old yesterday. And
I absolutely believe in Giovanni Ficara. He was champion back in Portugal 2021. He was second last year to Adrian that we saw earlier on. So much experience. He is always out on the water. So this is going to be a great match. And I can't wait to see the exit from People's Republic of China. And will he be able to do the same technique as yesterday? But very evenly matched here. Giovanni just getting caught off guard there. One blade in the water, one blade out, but he's off again. Flying start, but this is really smooth and controlled from Yang Yuqi. Yeah, Yang Yuqi, I said 18 years of age. He's actually 16 years of age. I've misread my notes there. So a real youngster. He's just knocked that first slalom buoy. Ficara's gone really wide here, Niamh. He's going to have to pull right back round. He missed that by a huge margin. Went the right side of it, of course, but has now got a massive adjustment to make to come right back to this second slalom buoy. Yeah, and Yang Yuqi as well staying very tight. I'm not sure he's just getting to the right side of it, but he almost went the wrong side of that as well. Now, he has a much straighter line, but I don't think that was done on purpose. And look at the different techniques here. Yang Yuqi staying so steady, long, slow strokes. Giovanni is firing through the water there with his blades. Giovanni looks like he's going to get to that turn first. Yeah, Ficara there, every single stroke was looking over his shoulder. I think he wanted to line this up so that he could make it the tightest turn possible, which he has managed really, really well there. He is out of the turn, he's exited, and he's already on his way back to the beach. But I'm so impressed by this 16-year-old Yang Yuqi, who is really putting the Italian through his paces and holding him to account. And actually, it's starting to come back here now, Niamh. I think we know how good the athlete from China is at that exit and at that sprint. And look at the difference in ratings here. 47 strokes a minute for Italy, just 35 for China. So much more reserves, keeping that lower, more efficient rating here. Could give him that burst of energy for the beach sprint. Absolutely, yeah. He is going for power here, and controlled, and it's working for him. But Giovanni, very much, we always see that's his style. He's very quick, very fiery, big lie back, and we saw that massive Hasselbeer on the turn. There was a big lie back to swing the bow. He looks like he's going to get to that beach first. Not too much of surge going on. This is timed well, I would say, for Yang Yuqi, because he's going to be able to do his super dismount here. But let's see, it's going to be Giovanni is out. He hops out as he always does. Yang Yuqi is out as well, but Giovanni, oh!
A huge
Disaster!
fall from Ficarra, but he picks himself up off the sand. Ooh, a huge sharp intake of breath there. That was something, because Ficarra fell at the point that Emma Twig did yesterday in that quads event. Huge trip. He looks like he can't believe it himself. He almost let the champion from yesterday's under-19 event run through him on the beach. He was very lucky indeed to get that back. And, well, I say lucky, but let's watch that back again. Look, here's the fall from Ficarra. Straight onto his knees. Look, he trips, he stumbles, he gets himself back online, and wow, I think if that had been any closer coming into the beach, then China could have beaten out last year's silver medalist, Italy.
Oh, what a recovery from Giovanni Ficarra. When that happens, you know, it's a split-second instinct to get up and try again. He could have thought it was game over, but he was like, no, I am going to go for this, and it paid off. Oh, what a finish. I can't wait to see the later rounds in this.
It feels like this is the quarterfinals and the finals already. And this now, yet another close race. We've got round 8, which we, well, as we well know, this is next to each other from the preliminary. This will be 8th versus 9th. And Brazil here, David Faria Souza going up against Mohamed Ryan Hafsa of Tunisia. Who Tunisia, you know, they've been medalists in this event in the past, Niamh. Different athletes coming through the Tunisia pipeline, but always a nation to watch in this solos event.
Absolutely, they've been very strong over the years. Just 1 second, less than a second separating the two of these athletes in the time trials. Here we have Brazil off to a nice start, Tunisia off to a nice start here. Evenly matched at the moment. Brazil maybe with an advantage, but you see there he's getting those bigger swells.
Yeah, indeed, and the boat handlers having to put in hard work here to keep them on their track towards that final turning point buoy and around these slaloms. But I think as it stands for now, it's still the athlete from Brazil just marginally ahead here, Souza.
Yes, indeed, they are around that second marker. Heading for that turn here now, quite evenly matched. This is what we expected in the final knockout of this category. Looks like Tunisia, they're just getting their blade caught up on one side. Looks like they're just getting that little bit of a wobble here now. We're seeing as soon as they go past that little bit of a headland that we're looking at, there is that little bit of a crosswind. Great even turns here now at the moment. Who can get out nice and narrow? Both of them making sure bows are pointed towards the beach here, and both are off at the same time.
Big comeback here from Tunisia, you're right. And look at that little uplift in the stroke rating. A few more short, sharp strokes from Tunisia's Hafsa has poked his bows out in front here, out of that spin. Brazil, our early leaders on the outward leg, but coming back in towards the beach. Well, I think maybe Tunisia know that they need to have an advantage here in lane number 1, because they know what lane 2 can bring in terms of that big swell if it hits.
Absolutely, you're dead right. Yes, and Brazil, I'm sure, will have been looking at the last few races and seeing that the advantage that they can use if they can ride those waves. But this is so close. Oh, Tunisia hitting that final marker, slowing them down, but they are off. They're going to catch a wave. They have a bit of a surge here now. Brazil are down in the trough, but there's one coming for them. Now it is Tunisia who are after slowing down. Brazil are coming right up with them now.
That was a huge example there where the peaks and troughs can really matter. Tunisia clatter into the water, but still on their feet, well ahead of Brazil. This will overturn the preliminary result if no disasters for Tunisia, which there won't be. Big celebrations there for them getting into those quarterfinals. Hafsa will be very pleased with that indeed. And Brazil were, well, they had the advantage from the preliminary on Friday, but that means nothing in this side-by-side, and that will conclude our quarter-finalists here in this men's solo event. Brilliant all around, and well, as Niamh and I said earlier, I think with this event, we've seen already some races that were akin to finals or to semi-finals, with the closeness of those finishes, and even some jeopardy sprinkled in there as well. We almost saw Ficarra, the Italian, being burnt out due to that little trip on the beach. But there are our quarterfinalists. Chris Back, no surprises there. Miramon Quiroga of Spain also going through alongside Franz Werner of Germany. And then it was a close race between Uruguay's Marcos Serralta, who won out there ahead of Alvaro Torres of Peru. Next up, it was then Lithuanian Galasanskis who took the win there alongside Portugal in their heat, and then very close there for Ficarra, as we were just mentioning, for Italy, who takes that win. And finally there, Tunisia, with a performance that required celebration. As I say, on paper that wasn't to be, but they managed that extremely well. So out there on the water, it's definitely a bit blustery because we've got the sailing boats back out again today. And I was always told, Neve, that if you see the sailing boats out, then not very good news for the flat water rowers, but with these guys doing the beach sprints, it means great conditions.
Absolutely, yeah, it's great to see. There's so many. It's actually getting so busy out there now on the port. So there is that little bit of a wind. You know, on a lot of the pictures on camera, it looks quite flat, but we can see we're up high, we're raised above the course here now, and we can see that bumpiness, that swell that's coming in and making things that little bit more interesting and exciting than what we saw yesterday when it was much flatter. Now we are on to the coastal women's solo, the final last 16 before we move on to the exciting quarterfinals and semi-finals. So yeah, we have the top 16 from the time trials going head to head here now. I suppose a lot of surprises from the time trials on Friday. You know, a lot of rowers didn't get that chance to do that second time trial, but we do have the fastest 16. And first up, this is going to be an amazing battle here between New Zealand and Azerbaijan. They're gearing up. They're into their final 3 minutes of that starting sequence. So once we hear that 1 minute signal, the boats will be placed in the water. So the boat handlers now doing their jobs here now. We can see them bailing out the water from those last few races, putting the oars in for the rowers that are coming up, changing those foot plate positions. They're all the important things that have to happen, making sure the seats are on the rails properly, and all those very important jobs that the boat handlers are doing here now today.
Very important indeed, yeah. And it gets the more the conditions pick up, the more important those boat handlers' roles become in keeping it stable and ensuring that they get the best entry and exit to the water as possible. Now, these women's solos, you saw the start list popping up on screen just a few moments ago, and the first round is a start list that wouldn't be out of place on the flat water competition. Emma Twigg of New Zealand, the Olympic champion from the women's single sculls back at Tokyo 2020 in that flat water 2K competition now, has been successful in this coastal championships prior in the World Beach Sprint finals, already a champion in this event. But going up against Diana Dimchenko of Azerbaijan, another athlete that is very versatile, hybrid, goes between both coastal and flat water, lives actually near one of the venues that has hosted both flat water and coastal championships before, or proposed championships before, in Italy. And off we go. We're underway here with that race, and a great start from both Dimchenko and Twigg.
Yes, Emma Twigg, of course, champion back in Saundersfoot in Wales in 2022. A lot of the later rounds, the finals had to be cancelled and it went off earlier times, and she was crowned champion, silver medal at the Olympic Games this year. She's off to a nice steady start. Diana Dimchenko knows that she has to do a lot of work here. Of course, disaster for Diana last weekend at the endurance event. She won the women's solo on the water, but she had missed one of the markers and was disqualified. She got a DNF, so did not finish of her race, allowing Monika Dukarska of Ireland to take that title. So here she is trying to get herself back into a podium position today, but she is going to be up against it here with Emma Twigg, who has so much experience, as you said, both flat water and coastal the last few years.
Yeah, and those conditions back in Saundersfoot where she took that title based on her times through, I think it was the quarterfinals or the semi-finals, definitely the finals weren't run on that occasion. She was she was able to tackle some really, really tough waves. You know, we're talking some conditions that were cancelable, as we saw happen back in Wales in 2022. So she is a really good boat handler as well as being a really strong athlete in a straight line as well. She's got that boatmanship to be able to do these turns, and that is lovely in terms of that spin round. Not quite as tight as we've seen some of the others, but she's given the space for her blade just to sit there on the water, not get caught up on the mark. And look at that, she is well ahead now of Diana Dimchenko.
Yeah, she used a little bit of a surge there that came up the stern of her boat. Now, I don't want to curse her or anything, but yesterday in the quads, she did take that tumble on the beach when she got out and went for her sprint. Hopefully that's not going to happen here today. I'm sure she learned from that, but look, these things happen, as we saw in the last few races there with Italy stumbling in the men's solo as well. It so easily happens, but at the moment she is in control on the water, staying quite steady with her rate here now, looking over the shoulder, making sure she is on course, which she is. The boat navigations actually from both of these athletes is really, really well. Here she is on the top of a wave, up the rate. Here she comes, surging towards the beach. It is Emma Twigg of New Zealand.
Yeah, she is going to be watching her step into this final line. She was in the quads yesterday, the mixed quads for New Zealand, and took a really bad fall on this run. So she'll be really careful now with where she places her footsteps on this sprint. She looks quickly over her shoulder to see that Dimchenko only just exiting the boat. So a good win there for the New Zealander, and a bit of a rest now ahead of the quarter-finals and beyond that lay ahead this afternoon in a 1 hour period. But that's the last time that there will be a big break between now and the next race. Everything else from now on in will be back to back.
Yeah, great finish there for Emma Twigg. So we'll see her a little later, but next up we have the second knockout. This time it is going to be Canada versus Spain. So we have Sarah Pigeon of Canada. She has been at pretty much every World Championships, World Finals. We see her time and time again. She's often teamed up with Aubrey Oldham as well in the mixed double. Here she is in the solo, and then up alongside her, second place from the time trials, Spain, we have Teresa Diaz Moreno, again a name that we see time and time again in the beach sprints.
Yeah, I remember Sarah Pigeon contending in that first ever World Beach Sprint Finals back in 2019 in Shenzhen, China, and still competing here now today, making it through to these knockout rounds from the preliminaries, which were cut short on Friday, but up against it here with Spain. Teresa Diaz Moreno is going to be stiff competition. Look at this, well handled here by the Canadians, perfectly placed for Pigeon to get underway, but that is some fiery start here from the Spanish sculler Diaz Moreno.
Yes, absolutely. And we're seeing, yes, Diaz Moreno is getting those swells that she's having to go up and down, up against now as she heads out to that first marker. Much cleaner over in lane one where Canada, Sarah Pigeon is at the moment. But really good navigation from both of these rowers. There was 13 seconds separating them in the time trials. Spain were second, Canada 15th. But that means not much here in the head-to-heads as we have seen throughout the morning. Teresa Diaz Moreno now doing really well. She's staying nice and tight to that second marker, just putting that handle. That's something we haven't seen before. She knew that her blade or the shaft was about to hit that marker, so she put that handle right behind her as we see them doing at the marker buoy. So that was interesting. And Spain are always so strong around the turn, so she would have had that knowledge and had practiced that, I'm sure, numerous times in the lead up to this.
Do you know what, Eve? It takes a lot of confidence, doesn't it, to pull that blade in, because that is your anchor. That's the thing that keeps you floating. Maybe not your anchor actually, but more like a stabilizer, right? Like these act like stabilizers on a bicycle, your blades. They're the thing that if you rock from side to side, they keep you nice and level. So to pull it in, you're putting yourself at risk. If a big swell hits you, that can really set you off balance and even capsize you in some circumstances. But look, she's definitely practiced it, because look at where that's got her to now, out on the water. That is a remarkable lead.
Yeah, that handle behind the back that we saw from her, it's something that I've seen from Spain. I remember being out on the water in Portugal in 2021 and just even watching the feed afterwards and just seeing all the crews, the Spanish crews, hugging those boys in those endurance races, and they were doing that. They were putting the handles right behind their backs to keep the blade in nice and close to the boat, and we see it time and time again, and all of their rowers now do it, and it's a beautiful action to see if you get a close-up of it. But here at that final marker, it is Spain now. She's keeping it controlled at the moment. She knows she has the swells coming up, so I'm sure her rate will start to go up here now. But Sarah Pigeon doing all she can. She's really shortened up that stroke, going for the stroke rate here now. But as long as Teresa Diaz Marino keeps doing what she's doing, she has a lovely lead.
Yeah, a lovely lead, but like we've seen in the previous rounds in some of the men's solos events, tripping up this beach can be disastrous, and that's not something that I think we'd expect of Diaz Moreno, but then again, we didn't expect it of some of the medalists from last year's men's solos either. But there we go. That is Spain through to the quarterfinals here in the women's solo event. Sarah Pigeon for Canada will take the last few strokes and steps to finish Canada's entry in this women's solo. That is it now in terms of her competition now being over in this round 2 of the round of 16.
Yeah, so next up in our third knockout of the day in the coastal women's solo, going to have another great race here between Hungary and Great Britain. A lot of people are going to recognize Claire Jemison of Great Britain here, always here the last few years. She was knocked out last year at the quarter-final stage, I believe, by Ireland, and now she is back again, finishing third in her time trial. Claire is someone now, we see more and more athletes. She travels around the world all winter training in all sorts of conditions. I know she spent a lot of time in Australia doing that surf rowing that we were talking about yesterday. So she is well used to every sort of condition that could be thrown at her today.
There we are. This is the running portion start line here, and Claire Jemison, you saw her foot lifting there from behind her. Very vigilant and ready to go under starters orders, but now we are underway as the waves crash in. It's reasonably calm at the moment. None of those huge breakers that we saw earlier were lifting the bows out of the water, but away she goes. A few rolling bits of surf coming in, but nothing too difficult for these athletes to undertake. So Priya Vivian of Hungary just trailing Claire Jemison. As it stands at the moment, we go into that first slalom buoy.
12 seconds separating these at the time trials. Claire Jemison finished third. Hungary, we have Vivian Perel finishing 14. So a bit of a difference between them. And we know Claire Jemison is very, very strong. She is taking a very direct route to that second marker. If she's not careful, because there is that bit of a messy water there. She is looking over her shoulder there now just to make sure. It was getting very close there for a second. Just because that you may think you're on course, but that bit of messy water can come in on the side and push you in the direction you do not want to go, but she is through that now, heading to that turning buoy.
It's quite a high risk to take, Niamh, isn't it? If you're trying to cut the slalom buoys really fine, one rogue bit of water could really be the difference between you and a 30-second penalty.
Absolutely, so you have to take that risk and calculate it, but lovely spin there from Claire Jemison. She is out nice and straight here now. Doesn't look to be going too wide, but not far behind her at all. It is Vivian Perella of Hungary.
Yeah, not too far behind at all, but we know that if you want to be successful in that lane number one of the characteristics of that lane is the slightly shorter sprint. If you can get your bows right up behind the flag in this inward leg, but it does have the disadvantage of the other lane being much more likely to get those rolling bits of surf. So you can see one now just ahead of Claire Jemison. There's a big old rolling piece of swell coming in. So Jemison, yeah, I think she's just caught one here actually. We've got Priya on screen here for Hungary. You can see the shadows of the waves behind her. Is she going to try and catch this nice lumpy bit of water in? Here's where it all starts to pick up now for these boats, and the rolls of the swell is going to be the difference between a great exit and a poor one.
Yes, here is Claire, so used to using these rolls, but Hungary flying in behind her. Let's see what's going to happen. Claire has hit the beach. It is Great Britain making that run, but Hungary is is a quick sprinter. Let's see what happens. Claire Jemison is making her way around that flag. That was a great finish on the water for Hungary. She really closed the distance there now, but Claire Jemison there from Great Britain doing enough on the water to get herself a place into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Hungary there. That was a brilliant, brilliant move to try and close that gap. And you saw that they might not have even been on the sprint at the same time if it wasn't for Priel catching that bit of surf, that little bit of swell that picked that boat speed up. It really enhanced that surge of speed. And it just goes to show you that if you can read that right, it's not necessarily pushing hard, but more being intelligent at reading those bits of swell that can give you that free speed almost. You can just surf your way in towards the beach. Now, here's a familiar name, Magdalena Lobnig, the Austrian on the left-hand side of your picture, the bronze medalist from Tokyo 2020 in the women's single sculls on flat water. And she's going to be taking with her in this race, Peru's Pamela Patricia Noya Reyes of Peru. Now, the Lobnig sisters had a great weekend last weekend here in Genoa. Niamh, you were here.
Yes, indeed, out in the women's double, and they won the endurance event. I love how they've taken this coastal rowing, both coastal and beach sprints, under their wings, and they're really going for it here. We saw Magdalena teaming up with Charles Cousins, who won the gold medal in the quad yesterday. They teamed up for mixed double there, I think in the UK during the summer, winning that. So yeah, here she is in the solo. Nice sprint down. She is off. They're both off actually quite even.
Yeah, nice even start, and I think actually we are starting to see that pickup of the lumps and bumps once again. It's kind of been very up and down, much like the waves themselves actually. They've been coming and going all morning, but Lobnig there riding out those lumps and bumps through that first turning point, through that first slalom point even, and getting herself about a boat length advantage. The boat handlers here directing her to the left-hand side of that slalom buoy. She should be able to just about pick them out in the distance in her foresight, but she does take a quick look over her left-hand shoulder just in case to get the measure of where she is. And in comparison, you can see there she is keeping looking to make sure that she just gets around that ahead of the next turning point, but Peru still trailing.
Yeah, obviously the boat handlers are doing a great job of navigating, but with so many people standing on the beach, it can be so hard to just completely rely on your boat handlers because you can lose sight of them very, very easily. So it's so important that you're keeping an eye on yourself and having a look over the shoulder. So yes, Magdalena Lobnig there of Austria, she is in. Bow is around, well able to turn these boats. Loads of experience last weekend. She had 8 markers to go around in the women's double with Katharina when they won that at the endurance event. Here she is, lovely line out of that buoy, keeping it really, really straight. Peru's Noya Reyes maybe going a little bit wider, but this is lovely out of Lobnig.
Yeah, lovely from Lobnig, and perfect conditions in terms of air temperature, a bit of a breeze, and the swells picking back up again. They're not quite out of that second slalom buoy like we saw earlier on this morning. They are closing in towards the beach at the moment, but they are picking up in terms of their height, and that means that if you get stuck in a trough, it can put the brakes on, but if you get onto the crest of the wave, you can really improve that final embarkation onto the beach. Lobnig now can take her time a little bit to start to read those conditions, understand what it is she needs to do to get on the front of that wave. Although in saying that, actually, those conditions have died down somewhat here. You can see that on your picture, nice and calm coming into the beach. So that's all flattened out for her. So no waves to ride, but the beach now to sprint on.
Yes, exactly. It's funny how you can predict or have a plan in your head that you're going to use those waves, and then they just may not come for you at the time that you're going out. But that is the joy of coastal rowing. That is the joy of the ocean. Things never stay the same. But she just worked well with what she was given there. So well done there to Magdalena Lobnig, booking a spot into the quarterfinals. So halfway through the knockouts of the coastal women's solo, 4 down, 4 to go. And next up, we're going to have another race because we have another medalist from last year, Elodie Ravera Scaramozino of France. She was second last year, beaten by Netherlands.
She's an Olympian as well. I think she was finished 5th in Paris this year. So flat water, coastal rower, experienced in both. She'll be going up against Mariam Abdelatif of Egypt.
Yeah, you're right. She was in her home Olympic Games this summer alongside Emma Lunati. Made the A final there, but now against Egypt, yeah, Mariam Abdelatif, who these two will have a close race, I'm sure. We saw Egypt earlier clinching a very narrow victory in the men's solo, and so Abdelatif, I think, will be inspired by success earlier on. And I wonder, you know, you say that, Elodie Rivera-Scaramuzzino, one of those athletes that is kind of dual disciplining as it stands at the moment, fresh from Paris. Having been a flat water rower and done training to this kind of climax for a flat water Olympics, really not that long ago, a few weeks ago, right? How is that going to have impacted now, maybe having had a bit of time off post-Olympics? Do you think that can have an impact on an athlete's fitness and preparation for this event?
Absolutely. Like, obviously she had a massive base under her, and peaking for Paris Olympics, that would have been what she would have peaked for. But then she had enough time, enough weeks she would have had to very much keep training, because you lose fitness so quick, but probably transitioned into more power work. And I'm sure she probably hit the weights room a lot and doing a lot of work on building up those glutes, hamstrings and quads to get the power in them, because that's what you need for this. But clearly, you know, she has the experience last year, so she knew, and her coach would have known exactly what they needed to do to get her into peak position for this as well. But yes, it is hard to peak for both events, but I think there was enough time. She would have had that massive endurance base, and then it was just about, I think, focusing on that power element for the last few weeks.
Yeah, we will see the power that's required to get blasting off the start, not only on the beach, but also on the water as well. And this race no longer than 2.5, 3 minutes at its very most. So all about that sprinting fitness, rowing is very much a power endurance sport across the board, but for this, the power is very much favoured in this short and sharp discipline. And here we go. This is France versus Egypt in round 5 of the round of 16 in the women's solos.
Great start by both rowers on the run. What has happened over for Egypt? She was completely thrown off, I think, by the push from the boat handlers. She went flying back, didn't pull a few strokes, and that has allowed Elodie Rivera-Scaramuzzino of France to get a nice lead already.
Yeah, she almost got laid flat there. We saw that earlier, actually, didn't we? In one of the crews, can't remember exactly, maybe Turkey when the shoes came out, actually. Knocked flat by that big old shunt that the boat handlers gave her. And that's where we were saying earlier, you know, boat handlers need to be so skilled in reading and knowing their athletes and what they need and what they want. Because if you misread it, you get it slightly wrong, that's the result that can deliver. Here is Rivera-Scaramuzzino of France, who, wow, she is really riding a little bit of bumpy water there, and I can see on the horizon tons and tons of shipping boats coming into port, so that's only going to pick up through the morning. So this is the last event we've got here on the scorecard for this morning before we go into the quarterfinals this afternoon. Egypt just getting eyes locked on to that turning point buoy. Abdelatif here getting ready to get that handbrake turn ready. Is she going to make it to the right side of the buoy? Yes, she is. A lovely, beautifully tight turn, very different styles there. Rivera-Scaramuzzino wide of the buoy. Egypt very, very tight there, and she's managed to gain some time.
Yes, absolutely. France went for the approach of going a bit wider but trying to keep that boat speed up, whereas Egypt went with the brakes on, staying nice and tight and trying to get the boat speed up as quick as possible afterwards. Nice, a really good navigation here by Egypt over on the far side from us in lane 1. France, as you mentioned, went that little bit wider into the center of the lane, but we know she has enough of a lead here now, or she will know that she has a nice bit of a lead and has enough time on the water to kind of correct herself, come back over in line with her flag to get the shortest run possible. So here we are, the swells are coming in, so she has one coming up to her stern here now. So let's see as she changes her technique slightly, shortens it up, speeds up that rate, using it as much as she can. She's gone down now into a trough, but there's another one right behind. She's having a look over the shoulder. She's upping it again here now, making use of every single little bit of wave.
Making use of every single crest of wave here, but had the time in hand to be able to deliver a nice patient performance into the beach. And France will feature now in the quarterfinals of the women's solo event. Egypt, great for them to be in this round from the preliminaries, qualifying through here to the knockout competition, but not to be that they step on much like their men's solo we saw earlier on this morning. But that is round 5 done and dusted.
In the water.
We've got rounds number 6 and 7, along with the final round, round 8 of this round of 16 yet to come.
Yes, nearly there for the women's solo knockout rounds. This time we are going to Lithuania versus Ukraine. So there was about 6 seconds separating these in the time trial. It was Ukraine that finished 6th, Lithuania finished 11th. Here they are going head to head. Lithuania, I'm sure, inspired once again by the gold medal from yesterday in the mixed doubles.
Here we go, lots of shouting from the spectators we got here on the beach. It may be early in the morning on a Sunday, but still lined along the barriers for this opening heat, this round of 16 in this women's solo. And Lithuania, wow, what a brilliant start here from Ramonita Mokonaite of Lithuania. But yeah, big name here, Diana Serebrianska, another Olympian who who's been a flat water rower and for Ukraine, been part of the women's single quadruple scull over the years. So yeah, very accomplished sculler, Serebrianska, but now having to try and master the discipline of coastal rowing.
Yeah, and you can see her sitting up that really tall body position at the finish of the stroke that we saw yesterday in the quad in particular was very, very obvious. It's working for her. She's nice and tall. She's able to get nice leverage, nice bit of power on the blades, but quite different to the style of Lithuania with that bit of an extra lie back. She's keeping that rate up. She is going for it here and holding on to that lead. Definitely getting bumpier right out to that third marker, that one that they have to go right around here now. So at the moment as they come into it, it is Lithuania making that approach, staying so tight to that marker buoy. She is in and around, going very wide in fact out of it. She's going to have to correct herself. Bit of a messy water there. There's a bit of break there on a wave. I think that was just maybe a wash that is coming in off the ships that Camilla mentioned there a while ago. So she's gone right over into the center of the 2 lanes now, so we'll have to come back in towards her own lane now to get the shortest route. Ukraine also a little bit wide out of that turn at the moment, sort of pointed towards the exclusion zone. We can hear the whistling starting, the shouting starting from the boat handlers, and she is starting to correct herself here now.
Yeah, I wonder how much they can hear of the boat handlers, because I can feel the breeze, the sea breeze pushing back into our faces here on the beach, which means that those voices that are coming from the beach are being pushed backwards, and they won't carry quite as well. But nonetheless, it's good corrections from both athletes here on the water. And here comes both of these athletes. Lithuania, though, with the advantage here. Mokonaite is going to be the first person to get feet on dry land, but a look either side just to make sure that she's ready to deliver that exit. Up the beach she goes, and looks like Lithuania continue to ride high on their own wave, which is success here at these World Rowing Beach Sprint Finals after yesterday's gold medal.
Yes, and of course joining her, the coastal men's solo, Zygomantas there, who booked his spot into the quarterfinals as well. So great to see Lithuania coming up each year, getting stronger and stronger in the beach sprints. So that is race over for Ukraine. Lithuania heading on, taking their bit of recovery now over the next few hours before they come back for the quarterfinals. Now this is going to be a big race as well, I would say. The next one up, second last knockout of the coastal women's solo. Reigning world champion of this category, Netherlands versus Australia.
Yeah, Janneke van der Molen, who even prior to the World Beach Sprint Finals being a discipline, has been a coastal rower for as long as I can remember, Niamh. She's been a real master of the craft, a real name of the discipline, and got rewarded last year by holding the title in this very event, the women's coastal solo. Very, very direct there. Very well placed, her feet into those shoes, but going up now against Australia's Samantha Blanchard, who also had a very swift start, and out onto the seas they go. Absolutely dead level.
Absolutely, but 2.5 seconds separating these in the time trials. It was Yannick of Netherlands who finished 7th, 3:01.81. Australia 10th, 3:04.30, so not much separating them. Coming into a bit of swells here now as they head down towards that second marker. This is going to be close. Even though Yannick van der Molen is the world champion in this, she is not going to have an easy race by any means.
Well, she's not, and I think by qualifying a little bit further down the order, you know, we're starting to get onto these later knockout rounds, which means that the results from the preliminary much further down the rankings. She's given herself a really tough mountain to climb here, actually, to get herself into contention in the quarters. She was 7th overall. She's going up against 10th Australia, so much neater, much closer for the battle for these head-to-head rounds. And you can see there the speeds basically identical as they come in towards the turning point, and identical points on this course as well. Australia goes a little bit wide. Van der Molen for the Netherlands goes that little bit tighter, but she does get a little bit caught on that turning point buoy. A beautiful backdrop of the shipping container we were talking about coming into port. It's going to kick out a load of swell, a load of wash. Yeah, both of these athletes a little bit off course here, Niamh.
Absolutely. I think there was that little bit of a surge, and it just threw both boats straight towards the beach, but they were both kind of angled off. I can hear all the boat handlers shouting again because Yannick van der Molen is going for that exclusion zone, and we have Australia's Samantha Blanchard is going right over towards lane 1. So both of them are going to have to make a big correction here now to get back in line with their flags. But of course, you don't want to do it too suddenly. You don't want to do an aggressive correction, because with the swell that is coming in, you'll be thrown sideways very easily. Oh, this is such a close match.
Yeah, this is bouncing them around like a washing machine all over the place, so unpredictable. But Van der Molen is really caught a wave here. It's not on screen, we're looking at the Australian, but the Dutch sculler is right on the crest of a wave. She is accelerating well in towards the beach. The Australian has just about picked up enough to stay in contention, but Van der Molen, oh, not the greatest of exits. Her arms pumping here to really generate that speed around the flag. Australia will trail, but Van der Molen has the opportunity to fight for yet another medal in this category by getting into the quarter-finals. And there is Samantha Blanchard coming in second place out of this competition now in this knockout. But a very close race indeed that was made even more exciting by the unpredictability of those bits of wash.
Yeah, I'm sure Samantha Blanchard will be happy with that performance. Again, going into a knockout round against the reigning champion is probably pretty hard mentally, but going in as the underdog, I suppose. But she did really well there to stay so close to her. So I'm sure we're going to see more things over the coming years from Samantha Blanchard. But on to the final knockout now of the Coastal Women's Solo. Another great race ahead of us here. We're going to have Germany versus USA.
And this is the last knockout round of 16 of the entire weekend here. And we've got, Kristin Cavallo, big name here in the United States of America coastal team, going up against Julia Tertunter of Germany.
Yeah, Christine winning a bronze medal last year. She beat Monika Dukarska of Ireland to claim that bronze medal. She's been working hard all winter alongside her coach, Benjamin Booth. So here she goes.
And it's surprising to see Cavallo this far down the ranking orders in the preliminaries, but again, making it challenging for herself to be going up against the German, who was 8th place overall, Cavallo 9th overall. So actually, Germany on paper the best through the opening round. But it is really bumpy now. The ripples here are being kicked out by that big old steamship, look.
Yeah, this is proving to be very tricky. As you said, it's like a washing machine. We saw this in Hong Kong in particular back in 2019. Everyone described in the endurance races it was like a washing machine. It was just coming at you from every direction, and this is what is happening. And of course in the solo boats you're going to be feeling it so much more with every stroke. You're not sure if the blades are going to be clean in and out of the water. So evenly matched here now between the two
heißt, da wird ja wahrscheinlich viel drüber zoomen. Es hakt halt einfach. Kann ja sein, dass wir dann